As a writer, I never thought procrastinating on a manuscript would come with karma. After finally finishing the last chapter, I somehow got pulled into the very historical romance novel I wrote. The novel itself started off pretty generic. The eldest daughter of the Shin family was known throughout the capital as a simpleton. Everyone knew it. Then she was pushed into a lake by the female antagonist. She didn't die, but it allowed the soul of the modern-day heroine to enter her body. From there, it was a typical level-up plot. The new Shen Suing tore through every scheming stepmother and jealous half-sister, opened a legendary cosmetics shop that became all the rage among noble women, and eventually met the powerful but aloof Prince Regent. After many ups and downs, the two fell in love and built a life of legend together. Sure, the plot was satisfying, empowering even, but let's face it, it was cliché. And the worst part? I didn't transmigrate into the heroine. I transmigrated into the villainess, Shen Longshuang, the illegitimate younger sister of the heroine Shen Suiying. And I arrived 5 years before the story even began. In the book, Shen Longshuang's birth mother died early. Her father didn't care for her, and her stepmother didn't like her either. She was sickly, always looked fragile, and everyone pitied her like own delicate white lotus. But no one knew. She was the most dangerous character in the whole story. Originally, the heroine had been engaged to her wealthy cousin from Jinzhou, Dam Yunju, her first love interest and a nearly perfect romantic lead. But when Dam Yunju came to the Shan household with engagement gifts, Longshuang, eager for wealth and status, schemed to get him drunk and slept with him. Overnight, the heroine's engagement was cancelled to cover up the scandal, and Longshuang took her place as the future young madam of the Dam family. Readers hated her. They tore into her like wolves, wishing they could peel her skin and burn her alive. So, under pressure from the readers, Longshuang's ending was equally tragic. On her way back to Jinzhou with Dam Yunju, their group was ambushed by bandits. Longshuang was kidnapped, assaulted, and had her face disfigured. Though she somehow crawled her way back to Jinzhou. He was mistaken for a beggar by the Dam family's servants, and beaten to death right on the street. I remember grinning wickedly as I wrote her ending. Now living it, all I feel is dread. Forget pushing Shen Suiying into a lake. I haven't even dared to raise my voice at her. I've spent the past 5 years holed up in my courtyard, only stepping out to greet old Madam Shen every day out of duty. But even with me staying out of the picture, the other characters from the novel still exist. Like Madame Lu Shangyun, the scheming concubine who nearly became a wife after the heroine's mother died. And her daughter, Shen Mingni, a quiet little girl who in the novel only followed Longshuang around to cause a bit of mischief. Now, I won't even let Shen Mingni near me. I've even made it a habit to warn people every time I pass by that lake. Careful, it's slippery. 5 years of hiding. Shen Suiying still plays the part of the sweet idiot. Shen Mingni, thanks to her mother, lives like a proper young lady. And me? I keep to myself, spend my days writing stories, and secretly have my maid sneak them out to sell. Thank goodness the sales have gone well. I've made a decent amount. So here's my plan. Stay out of trouble, survive until the lake incident passes. If I don't push Shen Suiying in, her soul won't get swapped. If her soul doesn't get swapped, the plot doesn't start. Ryan's safe. But if someone else does push her, and the soul swap happens anyway, then I'll flip the script. Suck up to the new heroine, invest in her business and stick close. With the right connections I can survive this. 2-path. Both manageable. But life has a twisted sense of humor. Because I never expected a third path to show up. Who would have thought, just one day after my coming-of-age ceremony marking 5 years in this world, I'd still end up kneeling in the main hall of the Shen estate, just like in the original plot. Father, you must seek justice for me. Shen Suiying stood drenched in water, no longer the naive girl she used to appear. She knelt in the center of the hall, tears pouring like rain. I was dumbfounded. I didn't do it. It wasn't me. Don't make false accusations. I hadn't pushed her into the lake. So why on earth was she blaming me? Old Master Shen frowned. Second miss, what exactly happened? Keeping my face calm, I looked at the ground, trying to appear serene. Please be careful with your words, big sister. Maybe you were panicked and saw things wrong. I clearly saw you push me. Shan Suing snapped, pulling out a faded brocade pouch embroidered with butterflies from her coat. This is what I grabbed from her as I fell. That pouch. Madame Lu, the second concubine, gasped. I've seen it before. I thought you were an obedient child. Who knew you'd harm your own sister like this? Old master, it was my failure to discipline her properly. Someone drag second miss out and give her a beating. She gave the command sternly, and I bent down to get a closer look. The butterfly embroidery was exquisite. This definitely wasn't my handiwork. Before I could even speak in my defense, a panting little maid came rushing in. She knelt beside Shan Suing, clearly about to whisper something when I quickly snatched the pouch and tossed it to her. Kai Dai, how careless of you to drop your pouch like that, I said lightly. The maid, named Kai Dai, looked startled but accepted the pouch with a flurry of thanks. As soon as she nodded, Madame Lu's face darkened. Shan Suing stared in disbelief. The pouch is yours? Kai Dai clutched it tightly and nodded. Yes, Mississippi. When you woke up and rushed out, I hadn't had a chance to explain. Shan Suing looked at her, then at me, confused. No, that can't be right. The plot isn't supposed to go this way. I clearly remember grabbing Shen Longshuang's pouch. How could it be yours now? They whispered to each other, but I heard every word clearly from where I stood. Did she just say the plot had changed? She read the story? But the protagonist I wrote was from the modern world. There was never any mention of her having read my book before she transmigrated. I glanced at Shan Suing, a new suspicion dawning. Could it be that she wasn't the original protagonist after all? Old Master Shen waved his sleeve. Nonsense. Spouting rumors before things are clear. You're about to get married, and now there are whispers of you trying to drown yourself? What would the damn family think? Finally, old Madame Shen, who had been silent all this time, opened her eyes and spoke in a slow, deliberate tone. Someone take that girl away. Tomorrow find a matchmaker and sell her off. Shan Suing wasn't so foolish after all. She quickly pulled Kai Dai behind her. Grandmother, it was clearly Shen Longshuang who pushed me. Why are you punishing Kai Dai? She must have switched the pouch. Yes, before she entered the room. I twitched. Wow, such blatant lying. Was she trying to fast forward the entire plot? Madame Lu took a sip of tea, then slowly said, This is indeed strange. With the master off and away, I always make sure to give Suing the best clothes and food. Maybe this caused some jealousy among the sisters. It's far too cold for her to have jumped into the lake on her own. Suing, we're all one family. You don't have to pursue this. How about I deduct some of Longshuang's monthly allowance as punishment? Would that ease your mind? That was the last straw. You could beat me, sure. But touch my money? Absolutely not. I took a deep breath and raised my head. Mother is truly generous in keeping the peace. But in these past years while father was away, aside from visiting grandmother, I rarely left my courtyard. How did that turn into sibling rivalry? I tugged on the threadbare coat Suing was wearing. And if we're talking about clothes, isn't that the coat third sister wore 2 years ago? Am I really supposed to be jealous of an old worn-out jack? Get. Perhaps it was because I had held my tongue for too long, but I'd never spoken so boldly. Madame Lu was caught off guard and rendered speechless. She looked again at the coat Suing wore and recognized. It really was a hand-me-down. She grew angry and snapped. Since when did children interrupt when elders are speaking? Looks like you don't need that mouth of yours anymore. This woman wasn't even a proper wife yet dared yell in front of old Master Shen. I scoffed inwardly but still played the part of the wronged girl, shrinking behind old Madame Shen. You're right to teach me a lesson, Mother. If you wish for me to admit guilt, of course I dare not disobey. But yesterday, grandmother asked me to help in the kitchen preparing the peach blossom pastries for her upcoming birthday celebration. The kitchen maids can all testify. I lowered my head and leaned into old Madame Shen's knee, tears rolling down my cheeks. But from the look in Mother's eyes today, I knew she was determined to find someone to take the fall. I'm only a younger sister, unloved by you as always. If you insist I confess, then I will. At that moment, old Madame Shen narrowed her eyes and stroked my head with a sigh. If you hadn't said anything, I would have forgotten. I did send her to the kitchen yesterday. And how could someone be in two places at once? Didn't we say you girls had new clothes? Yet neither of you is wearing them. Looks like I've been too lazy lately. Mother, you seem quite capable, don't you? For 5 years, I had stayed out of everyone's business, but had always taken special care to please old Madame Shen. Her eyesight was poor, so I read scriptures to her, copied texts, massaged her shoal. Durs brought her snacks, never missed a beat. I hadn't gained much, but I figured if I truly showed devotion, maybe one day she'd remember me when it mattered. And she did. Old Madame Shen used to run the entire household after the female lead's mother passed. But after falling ill, Madame Lu took over and won the old master's favor. Thus, the old lady lost her authority. But clearly, she wasn't content with that. Just a few words from her, and Madame Lu had no reply. Old Master Shen glanced between Shen Suiying and me, then shifted his gaze to Shen Mingmi, who was standing there in a brand new coat, pristine and untouched. At this point, even a fool could see what was going on. I let out a quiet sniffle and looked up timidly. Mother said that since both Big Sister and I are getting married soon, there's no need to waste money on new clothes. A little hardship is good for us. As long as Father and Grandmother stay healthy, I'm willing to endure anything. Besides, Father still has to go to court tomorrow if rumors get out. Shen Suiying stared at me, stunned, still not quite understanding how the tide had turned so quickly. Meanwhile, Madame Lu was panicking. You two wicked girls. Why weren't you this clever before? One's wearing old clothes, the other's jumping into lakes. All a setup, wasn't it? Old Master Shen had been simmering in anger, and now her words tipped him over the edge. With a loud smack, he slapped Madame Lu so hard she fell flat on the ground. Well done, Lu Xiangyun. So this is how you run the household when I'm away? Do you have any idea who the damn family is? They just brought engagement gifts for Suiying, and you couldn't even give the girl a decent coat? What are you trying to do? Humiliate our entire Shen household? You wicked woman, absolutely vile. From now on, the household will go back under mother's control. I won't let people say we mistreat our legitimate daughters while favoring the illegitimate ones. Madame Lu knew the situation had turned against her. She scrambled over, clinging to his robes. Please, my lord. It wasn't me, it was those two girls. But old Master Shen gave her another resounding slap. What? Are you trying to make a scene so the entire household can watch the circus? I'm a freshly appointed third-rank official, and before I even step foot outside, people will already be mocking me behind my back. I must have been blind to leave someone like you in charge. He raised a cane, clearly intending to beat her further. Madame Lu turned pale and collapsed to the floor, shaking like a leaf. Shen Mengni had long since retreated into a corner, and didn't even dare help her mother. They were probably both wondering how a little spat between legitimate and illegitimate daughters suddenly blew up like this. But frankly, none of that mattered to me. I lowered my head and felt the weight on my chest ease. Thank goodness old Master Shen hadn't deviated from the script. If he had added in new drama, who knows what disaster would have come next. Sure, the actual events were slightly different from the novel, but the outcome was the same. Madame Lu lost her authority over the household. And that meant I'd successfully dodged a bullet. On the way back, I noticed Shen Suiying walking ahead in a hurry. I quickly caught up to her. Big sister, wait. There's something I want to say. Still upset from earlier, she turned sharply toward me. What is there to talk about between us? I bowed humbly. Big sister, perhaps you were frightened when you fell into the lake and got confused. Maybe you misheard some rumors. But I truly was in the kitchen all day yesterday. I never even and tea near the lake. Shen Suiying narrowed her eyes at me. So it wasn't you? Then maybe I remembered wrong because of cousin. The moment she mentioned cousin, everything clicked in my mind. She'd read the novel. I quickly took her hand. Big sister, the one cousin truly loves is you. You're the one he's about to marry. I haven't even stepped outside the manor in 5 years. I've never even seen his face. YW. Would I push you into a lake over him? You don't need to pretend anymore, she said, yanking her hand away and sneering. I know you're in love with cousin. If you want him, he's all yours. I'll talk to father tomorrow. One of us has to marry him, and it really makes no difference who it is. I was speechless. She wants to give up Dam Yunju? She wants to marry the crown prince? Wait, is she even reading the right novel? Or worse, is she reading some pirated, messed up version? I forced a laugh. Big sister, don't joke. Everyone knows the crown prince injured his leg during a hunting trip. He might not even be able to have children. That title might not last much longer. Smack! A slap landed square on my cheek, hot and stinging. I stared at her in shock. She hit me. Looking down at me with disdain, Shen Suiying scoffed. How dare you speak about royal affairs so carelessly? You're not afraid of losing your head? His Highness is brilliant and majestic, destined to be a great ruler. And you? A side character who probably won't even survive past chapter 1. Daring to open your mouth here. I almost burst out laughing right then and there. Yup. She's definitely reading a pirated version. But I stayed in character, clutching my cheek, eyes brimming with tears. Big sister. How do you know everything that's going to happen? She crossed her arms and smirked. You won't be around much longer anyway, so I'll tell you. In a few days, the imperial edict will arrive. His Majesty will personally bestow a marriage. And your cussy. En's engagement letter? Worthless. You'd better behave yourself these next few days. As long as you don't try anything stupid, I might let you live a few more chapters. With that, she turned and flounced away, leaving me frozen on the path. Once I was sure she was out of earshot, I lowered my head and smirked. Brilliant. Truly brilliant. So this version of the heroine wasn't smart, just a delusional reader of a pirated book. The crown prince in my story had a crippled leg, a twisted personality, and a violent temper. He forced his own princess into marriage and made her life a living hell. She spent every day in misery until he died suddenly after half a year. Then, she was forced to follow him to the grave. That incident plunged the capital into mourning. Entertainment was banned for months. Even the tea house the heroine opened had to shut down. She cursed the crown prince and his ancestors in her dreams. Every night. And now Shen Suiying wanted to marry him? Amazing. As I got up and brushed off the dirt, I caught a glimpse of a white robe slipping past a nearby corridor. I immediately wiped the smirk off my face, clutched my cheek, and ran back to my courtyard cry. Ingenier. Back at my courtyard, I clutched my burning cheek. My maid Kai Huan rushed up with tears in her eyes. Mother being harsh is one thing, but even with old master back, why must Miss still be betrayed? This way. I waved her off, still preoccupied with what Shen Suiying had said about marrying the crown prince. It's nothing. Don't dwell on it. Oh right, Kai Huan, bring out all the silver notes I've saved from Elling manuscripts over the years. Let's count everything again carefully. This was an unspoken ritual between the two of us. Every evening, as the sun dipped low, we lit the lamps and sat down to count money. Miss, why do you count it every single day? Kai Huan asked, half exasperated, half impressed. You've got enough saved to fill several wedding chests already. I licked my fingers and flipped through the notes. Wedding? Who's getting married? Kai Huan, once I get my hands on your release contract from old madam, we're making a run for it. 2 months from now. We're gone. Kai Huan froze mid-count, eyes going wide. Miss, are you crazy? I sneered. I'm not crazy. But Shen Suiying definitely is. How can that be? She blinked. The legitimate miss is way more articulate since she fell into the lake. I shook my head. She's worse than before. If we don't escape soon, we'll end up buried alongside the crown prince. Kai Huan looked baffled. Miss, I think you've written too many dramatic scripts lately. I didn't answer. There was no use explaining. She didn't know that old Master Shan's promotion was all thanks to the newly appointed crown prince. If he hadn't backed the second prince from the start, he'd still be a nobody official in the farso. But now that the second prince had become crown prince, Shen Tujian got a promotion. His colleagues were all trying to cozy up to him, and he was happily expanding his power for the crown prince's foot. Your rule. That beloved cousin Damyunju? He was meant to be a stepping stone. The Dam family in Jianzhou was immensely wealthy and had connections with the imperial household. Marrying Shun Suiying into that family would have secured strong backing for the Shuns in the capital. The original story, this plan succeeded. Only the bride had been me, Shun Longshuang. But since I was still from the Shun family, the old man didn't mind. Now that he was a third-rank official and Shun Suiying was the legitimate eldest daughter, marrying her into royalty was an even better deal. No wonder he agreed to change the engagement so quickly. But in the original novel, even when Shun Suiying was surrounded by suitors, she had no interest in romance. She only wanted to build her cosmetics business. This version, however, she was hell-bent on marrying the crown prince and digging her own grave. She died fine. But in the book, Shun Tujian had the sense to avoid getting dragged down. Now, if Shun Suiying insists on marrying into the royal family, once the crown prince goes down, the Shun family will follow. And I'll go down with them. No way. I had to escape. I quickly did the math. We had 430 taels saved, still far from the 1,000 tael target. I sealed the box, tucked the key into Kai Huan's pocket, and gave her a serious look. Listen to me. If you ever run into Shun Suiying, turn and walk the other way. Don't say a word. And stay far, far away from Kai Dai too.
Kai Huan blinket.
Why? I pulled out my hairpin and climbed onto the bed. Do I really need to explain? To stay alive, of course. Originally, I thought if Shun Suiying really turned out to be the heroine, I'd use my savings to befriend her and invest in her cosmetics shop. Whether or not the business succeeded, at least I'd have a solid backing. But after waiting 5 years, this is what I got. Forget it. I'd have to survive on my own. Still, my savings were nothing compared to what the heroine started with in the novel. Time to write like my life depended on it. That evening, while the whole household was busy with dinner, I had Kai Huan sneak one of my new drafts out through the back gate to sell. I also told her to buy more ink. Luckily, my writing style had improved a lot over the years. I adapted modern plotlines into historical settings, instantly popular. The guards and servants loved Reborn to conquer the world. The scholars couldn't stop reading, climbing the bureaucratic ladder. Noble ladies devoured Reborn as a capable housewife. And the merchants? They were obsessed with From Rags to Riches. Once I figured out the market, my stories sold like hotcakes. Some bookstore owners even paid in advance just to secure my next manuscript. With money coming in steadily, I decided to expand. Targeting market vendors, I started writing a new book. Spring Comes to the Village. I was on fire. My brush moved like it had divine guidance. Just as I finished another page, I reached for fresh paper. Crash. The inkstone fell and shattered. I stared at the broken pieces, stunned. Inkstones were expensive. Then I remembered there might be one left in the storage room. In the original story, the heroine had sneakily retrieved her late mother's dowry from storage. That was her first bit of capital. But now, she was too busy chasing after the crown prince to bother wit. That. So I followed her lead. I crept to the broken window at the back of the storage room. Sure enough, it was still loose. I slipped inside and gasped at the stacks of treasure chests full of gold and jewels. My fingers itched. I kept myself in check. A missing inkstone was fine. But if anything else went missing, the entire household might be searched. Back when Madame Lu managed the storage, security was lax. But now that old Madame Shen was in charge, I couldn't risk it. Taking a deep breath, I searched quietly until I found a perfectly good inkstone. I wrapped it in a handkerchief and made my way to the window, ready to climb out. But the moment I stepped outside the side corridor, thud, I slammed straight into someone's chest. And of course, crack. The inkstone dropped and shattered again. I stared at the broken pieces, heart breaking along with them. That inkstone was worth 100 taels at least. A gentle voice came from above. Apologies, Mississippi. Are you hurt? I glared up, fuming. You smashed my inkstone. Do I look like I'm okay? Then I froze. The man was dressed in white, elegant and graceful. His face was calm, refined like moonlight on snow. Wait a second. Who was this? There was no one like him in the Shen estate. The man in white glanced at the shattered inkstone. His expression apologetic. How much was it worth? I'll compensate you. Something felt off. Before he could finish his sentence, I spun around and bolted. Miss, where are you going? I didn't look back. I just ran faster. Of all the people I could have bumped into while sneaking around, it had to be him. This was the inner courtyard. If anyone saw us, Shun Suing would use it as an excuse to create a scandal and pawn me off on him. Her mind was probably full of fantasies about becoming crown princess, and would love for someone else to marry this lowly cousin instead. I wasn't about to fall into that trap. Back in my courtyard, I leaned against the door, chest heaving, trying to catch my breath. Just a short run and I was already drenched in sweat. Proof of how lazy I'd gotten over the years. I reached or the handkerchief I'd used to wrap the inkstone, and froze. It was gone. I'd run too fast and left it behind. If that man picked it up, what was I supposed to say? That I was stealing from my own family's storage room? Panic surged through me. I had to go back and retrieve it. Maybe I could still talk my way out of this. When I returned to the corridor, everything had been cleaned up. Not a single shard of the broken inkstone remained. It was like it had never happened. He must have swept it all into the bushes. Wow, what a considerate guy. I crept toward the shrubs, crouched down, and started searching for the handkerchief. Just then I heard voices coming from behind the rock garden. Curious, I tilted my head. In the shadows I spotted a flash of white. It was him again. Relieved, I was just about to step out and ask about my handkerchief when, shing! A glint of silver flashed. Then came a thud. A man collapsed to the ground, blood pouring from a deep slash across his neck. I froze, breath caught in my throat. That gentle, elegant man was calmly wiping blood off a thin, flexible sword. The warmth in his eyes was gone. What remained was a cold, calculating sharpness. He cleaned the blade methodically. That sword, it looked familiar. And then it hit me. In the novel, only the male lead Yang Chun, the ninth prince, owned a sword like that. Even the crown prince had to address him respectfully as ninth uncle. This wasn't some random cousin. This was Yang Chun. I sucked in a cold breath. In the original book, this part of the story was barely mentioned, just a few vague lines. The cousin who came to deliver the engagement gifts supposedly died of a heart attack while traveling. The narrative never bothered to elaborate on who he really was. But now it made sense. That cousin had been Yang Chun all along, using a fake identity to investigate the Shun family's connection to the crown prince. I crouched lower in the bushes, heart pounding. In the novel, Yang Chun had been gathering evidence to bring down the second prince, now the crown prince. Once he succeeded, he would support the fifth prince and help him ascend the throne. When that happened, Yang Chun wouldn't just be the unknown ninth prince anymore. He would become the official regent king. Back then, I'd paid no attention to the male lead. I figured as long as the heroine succeeded in business, I could ride her coattails, maybe enjoy a little luxury and security. But now, I'd literally bumped into the male lead, while he was undercover on a covert mission. This wasn't in the book. I was still trying to decide whether to fake my death or make a run for it when I heard his voice again from behind the rock garden. Does a minor matter like this really require me to act personally? Your subordinate is unworthy, someone answered. I didn't expect the crown prince to have eyes inside the Shun household. They even knew we were here. What about Shun Suing? Any movements? She hasn't been home at all. Every day she wanders near the crown prince's usual haunts. The Shun father-daughter duo clearly know what kind of person he is, yet still rush headlong into ruin. I stayed perfectly still, knees going numb from crouching so long. I accidentally stepped on a dry leaf. Crunch. I bolted. But my legs were stiff, and I stumbled face first into the bushes with a loud thud. Silence. Then a deep voice rang out. Someone's there. I froze. I lay flat in the dirt, praying I'd blended in well enough with the shadows. Minutes passed, then the footsteps slowly faded. Only after they'd completely disappeared did I dare to crawl out of the bushes. By now night had fully fallen. With the darkness on my side, I ran all the way back to my courtyard. Kai Huan had already returned, clutching a thick bundle of silver notes. Miss, good news. The bookstore owner said from now on he'll pay for every manuscript in advance. No need to read it first. Use. T handed in and he'll print it straight away. I took the notes eyes wide. That's amazing. At least now we'll have stable income. Then I saw the empty space on my table. Wait, where's my inkstone?
Cái Huan Berlin Cat.
Didn't you break it? Right. I broken it. Twice. I sighed. Go to the market tomorrow and buy a new one. 50 taels max. If Yang Chun ever found out I was eavesdropping on his secret operation, I wouldn't survive to see sunrise. Better to lay low for a few days and avoid him at all costs. The next morning, just after dawn, a young maid I'd never seen before stood outside my courtyard, holding a delicate golden sandalwood box. What is this? I asked warily. It's something the young miss dropped. I was told to return it to its original owner. The maid bowed politely, handed the box to Kai Huan, then swiftly turned and left. My heart skipped a beat. Hands trembling, I opened the box. Inside sat an exquisite inkstone, dark as midnight, smooth as jade. Kai Huan gasped. Miss, this is a top-tier Yunsong Danzi inkstone from the Jade Crane Pavilion. They cost 50 taels of gold each. Of course I knew how valuable it was. As I lifted the inkstone from the box, I spotted a folded slip of paper underneath. Frowning, I unfolded it. There were just a few words written in sharp, calligraphic brushstrokes. If you value your life, stay silent. My hands trembled. The inkstone nearly slipped from my fingers again. Miss, what's wrong? Kai Huan rushed forward. I quickly steadied myself and forced a calm voice. Return it. Go to the Jade Crane Pavilion and exchange this for something cheaper. Around 50 taels should do. Kai Huan didn't return until almost noon. When she finally stepped back into the courtyard, she was carrying bundles upon bundles. Bags big and small, her arms completely full. I paused mid-writing, staring in disbelief. I told you to exchange the inkstone, not go on a shopping spree. What's with all this? Panting, she dropped everything onto the table, then reached into the largest bag and carefully pulled out the same golden sandalwood box. My eyes narrowed. What, they wouldn't let you return it because you're just a girl?
Cái Huan Waver Franc Tico.
Don't even mention it, miss. The moment the shop owner saw that box, his face turned white as a sheet. Forget a return. He gave me 2 more inkstones worth 50 taels each. On the spot. Plus all these brushes, paper and inkstones. He even insisted on sending me home by carriage. She jabbed a finger at the pile. I had to beg them to stop loading more things on me. In the end, I had to sneak back through the back gate with old Wu's vegetable cart just to avoid drawing attention. I stared at the table, utterly stunned. Brushes, ink, paper, everything was top tier. The paper alone was Zhengxin Hall Premium, white as jade, thin and smooth, and when folded left no creases. Each sheet was worth hundreds of taels. The ink? Songyan Superior, glossy and black as lacquer, starting at 100 taels per stick. They'd given me an entire box. The brushes were Xuanqing's finest, made from select weasel hair and snow rabbit fur. Altogether, the gifts on the table probably cost more than the original inkstone. Kai Huan rested her chin in her hands, eyes wide with wonder. Miss, do you think they recognized me as some kind of VIP? Did I accidentally hit the jackpot? I didn't answer right away. The capital was full of rich people. A gift worth 50 taels of gold wasn't necessarily suspicious. But this felt different. I opened the golden sandalwood box again and picked up the inkstone inside. As I turned it over for a closer look, I finally noticed a small, delicate engraving on the back. One single character, Zhou. Zhou 9. My hands went cold. Zhou, the courtesy title of the 9th prince. Yang Chun. Bam. I collapsed into the chair, dazed. This wasn't some windfall. The shopkeeper hadn't mistaken us for noble customers. He'd recognized the seal of the 9th prince, and realized I was involved with him. No doubt, news of the maid trying to sell the inkstone would soon reach Yang Chun. Just the thought of it made my heart pound in fear. Right at that moment, a voice called from outside the door. It was Lingyu, the old madam's maid. Is second miss at home? Kai Huan and I exchanged glances and stepped out. I asked politely, Sister Lingyu, is there something you need? Lingyu stepped into the courtyard with a bright smile. Second miss, tomorrow is the old madam's birthday. The young master sent for a performing troupe to come. The old madam said that since you oft and watch opera scripts, she wants you to go take a look and help choose the play. Ah yes. I had indeed spent quite a bit of effort over the years keeping the old madam entertained. She liked operas, and I often told her stories to amuse her. Now that the troupe was here, she nature. I thought of me first. I forced a smile. You said it was the young master who invited the troupe? Ling Yu grinned. Who else? They're waiting for you right now. I instinctively took a step back. This scene wasn't in the original plot. Seeing my face go pale, Kaihuan whispered, Miss, what's wrong? What's wrong? What could possibly be right? If Yang Chun found out I tried to sell the inkstone he gave me, he'd definitely think I disregarded his warning. If I so much as stepped foot outside the inner courtyard, wouldn't that be the perfect chance for him to eliminate me? Ling Yu chuckled. Second Miss hasn't gone out much in recent years. It's normal to feel a little nervous with so many people around. I froze in place. So many people. Actually, maybe that's better. The more people there were, the safer it might be. I looked up. Since grandmother remembered me, it wouldn't be proper not to go. Let's all go together. Following Ling Yu to the front courtyard, we arrived at Bamboo Pavilion, where the performing troupe was busily setting up. The bamboo pavilion was usually used to entertain guests, surrounded by elegant green bamboo that swayed gently in the wind. It was a tasteful place for a gathering. The troupe had started assembling their stage there. Ling Yu led us through the side entrance. I looked around but didn't see the old madam anywhere. I was about to ask when I heard a familiar voice coming from behind the bamboo grove. Suiying, did cousin do something to upset you? Cousin? Our families are 10,000 miles apart. Tan Yunju, I suggest you cancel the engagement quickly before the imperial decree arrives. You'll just be embarrassing yourself otherwise. Imperial decree? But Suiying, I've already invited a matchmaker to check our birth charts. I came all the way from Jinzhou just to deliver the betrothal gifts this time. She scoffed. Ridiculous. And you think you're worthy? As we rounded the bamboo grove, I saw Shen Suiying shove someone to the ground. I froze. Lying at my feet, trembling like a willow in the wind, was none other than Yang Chun. The man on the ground trembled. Though I may be of little worth, the Tan family is still the wealthiest in Jinzhou. Countless families would welcome a proposal from me. Yet I turned them all down and came here to propose to you. I don't understand what I've done to offend you. Shen Suiying didn't seem to grasp the gravity of the situation. She lifted her chin arrogantly. And you still have the nerve to speak? You're just a lowly merchant. You're not even worthy of carrying the crown prince's shoes. The crown prince. The moment those words fell, the man at my feet began to shake even harder. Kaihuan tugged on my sleeve. Miss, what should we do? The young master looks like he's about to cry. Cry. More like he's about to butcher someone. I had absolutely no intention of getting involved. I would have turned and run on the spot if only I could. But just as I tried to take a step back, the man on the ground suddenly grabbed my ankle. Slowly he lifted his tear-stained face, eyes rimmed red. Apologies, Second Mississippi. I must have made a fool of myself. Who's watching your performance? Let go of my leg. But he didn't. I gritted my teeth and gave Kaihuan a look. Kaihuan, help the young master up. She stepped forward immediately. But before she could even touch his sleeve, the man had already pulled his hand back and stood up on his own. Shen Suiying gave a mocking snort. Second sister, your timing is perfect. Your dear cousin, who seems to suit your taste so well, is right here. Why not express your feelings now so I can finally rid myself of this walking headache? What in the world was she talking about? Her words, however, clearly caught the man's attention. He turned to look at me. Meeting his questioning, suspicious gaze, I clenched my jaw and replied stiffly, Elder sister must be joking. Grandmother asked Ling Yu to bring me here to choose a script, not to disturb you too. Lu Yu were chatting. I turned to go. But before I could take more than 2 steps, Ling Yu added brightly, since both young ladies are here, why not choose the script together? The old madam only wants one show, and there are still 2 F to pick from. Shen Suiying rolled her eyes. Choose what? I'm far too busy. You side characters can amuse yourselves. Deep, prepare the sedan chair. We might still make it to Heaven and Earth Hall in time for the Maddie. Nay. As she turned to leave, I tugged on Kai Huan's sleeve to follow. But we had barely taken 2 steps when, "Second miss, please wait. Second sister, please wait." I flinched slightly at the sound but didn't dare turn around. "Cousin, is there something you need?" The man behind me was silent for a moment before speaking gently. "Weren't you here to pick a play?" Coincidentally, this troupe was brought all the way from Jinzhou by me. "Why don't I take you to meet the troupe master? You probably don't know this, but he has quite the collection of rare scripts tucked away." I should ask Ling Yu. She's with grandmother." I turned, hoping Ling Yu would come to my rescue. But to my dismay, she had already slipped behind Yang Chun, practically hiding behind his back. Yang Chun looked up and smiled warmly. "Second sister, please." He was cornering me step by step. I was forced to walk ahead of him. Kai Huan looked at me, puzzled, glancing back nervously. "Miss, you seem a bit uneasy?" "I'm fine." "Miss, do you really have feelings for the young master?" Silence. We walked toward the storage house in the back courtyard. The moment I stepped in, bang, the door slammed shut behind me. "Kai Huan." I spun around and tried to open it, only to find it locked from the outside. Behind me, a calm male voice sounded. "Why don't you take a seat, second sister?" In the original novel, Yang Chun was a man of unfathomable depth. Even the heroine had to outwit him in 100 rounds of mental chess. A mere illegitimate daughter like me didn't stand a chance. I turned slowly and saw him sipping tea, steam curling around his long, narrow eyes, sometimes hidden, sometimes visible. "Second sister, are you afraid of me?" I pressed my back against the door, forcing a stiff smile. "How could I be?" He chuckled. "That's right. You're quite brave. After all, no one has ever dared return a gift I've given." "You overestimate me, cousin. I don't have much experience dealing with the world." I received something valuable and in my panic, asked my maid to take it to a shop to inquire. His hand paused mid-motion as he skimmed foam off the tea. "Oh? And what did you find out?" I stammered. "Well, your inkstone was clearly too precious." My maid didn't even get the chance to speak before the shopkeeper shoved a mountain of supplies into her arms. We still don't know what kind of treasure it is." He smiled and set the teacup down gently. "If you're clever, I won't beat around the bush. Today, Suying said you had feelings for me. Is that true?" My eyes widened and I hastily raised 3 fingers. "Heaven bear witness. Sister and cousin are a match made in heaven. I wouldn't dare covet her future husband." He chuckled again. "Your father is in the emperor's favor, and the Tan family hopes to deepen our ties. Seeing Suying so cold today, I thought I'd come ask for your opinion instead." I turned pale. What was he saying? In the original novel, Shun Longshuang ended up tragically because she tried to steal Shun Suying's fiancé. I could still remember the scene vividly. Beaten to death in the snow on the streets of Jinch. Ooh. He could say whatever he liked, but if I dared reach above my station, I'd be dead by the next chapter. "I'm just a concubine's daughter. Perhaps you should continue pursuing eldest sister." I turned and shouted, "Ling Yu?
Kai Huan.
Why hasn't the troop arrived yet?" Thankfully, the storage room wasn't isolated. If I yelled loud enough, Ling Yu, Kai Huan, maybe even the guards outside the gate would hear. But the silence outside was deafening. After a long pause, the man's voice sounded again behind me. "Don't waste your breath, second sister. All 30 members of the troop are guarding the perimeter. You could scream yourself hoarse and no one would come." My hand froze on the door. Then I raised 3 fingers again. "If this is about the inkstone, I swear I, Shen Longshuang, will never reveal what I saw that day. If I break this vow, may the heavens strike me down." He gave a low laugh. "If oaths worked, we wouldn't need courts. The only sure way to keep someone silent is death." Before I could react, he suddenly lifted me into his arms. I gasped, struggling with all my strength, but his grip was too firm. Looking up, I met his warm, smiling eyes, only now, they were filled with dangerous amusement. He tugged my hand down, right onto the cold, hard weapon strapped at his waist. I froze. That sword. I remembered the man behind the rock garden. If he drew it now, I'd die instantly. I panicked. Wait. Wait. The only way to keep someone quiet isn't just death. There are others. He narrowed his eyes. Oh? Then tell me. What other way is there? Yang Chan slowly brushed his fingers over mine, eyes narrowing with a smile that held far too many layers. Didn't you just say you didn't want to marry me? What exactly is your intention, second sister? I forced myself to stay calm. If cousin wishes to stay in the capital for a while longer, of course I won't object. But I care little for marriage. All I ask is that, once you're done with whatever you came here for, give me a way out. If I'm cast aside, what hope would I have left? As a concubine's daughter, I'd likely end up someone's lowly concubine anyway. Better to leave while I still can. With your influence, cousin, granting me freedom shouldn't be difficult. He looked down at me for a long time. Then he smirked. You've got guts. Bargaining with me. The scariest people are the ones with no desires, no weaknesses. Once he knew what I wanted, he might lower his guard. As his arm around my waist loosened, a knock came from outside. Sir, I've brought the scripts for you and the young lady. Come in. I turned. Yang Chen was already back at the tea table, serene and elegant as if nothing had happened. Had I imagined it all? The troop master entered, bowing with a thick stack of scripts in his arms. I glanced at the titles, confused. Yang Chen rested his chin on one hand, smiling gently. Of course, the choice of performance is up to you, second sister. My time was running out. Yang Chen might be gentle with the heroine, but to everyone else, he was ruthless. And I, who knew his true identity, was a walking liability. No promise he made was worth trusting. When his plans were done, he could have me disposed of just as easily as lighting a lantern. I used to think I had time. Now I realized, this might be my last chance before marriage sealed my fate. The next day was the old madam's birthday. I dressed beautifully, every detail perfect. Before noon, I found an excuse to slip out, and went straight to the most extravagant tea house in the capital, Heaven and Earth Hall. And truly, Heaven and Earth Hall lived up to its name. The singers had voices sweet as honey. The dancers were graceful and alluring. Even a cup of tea here cost 5 silver taels. I wore a pale golden gauze dress, delicate and sheer. Every move I made drew admiring glances from all around. A short while later, Kai Huan rushed up the stairs carrying a small box. Miss, the money's been deposited at the bank, just like you instructed. Here's the receipt. And the shop I told you to check? I've already looked into it. There's a small pastry shop in the southern district. Business seems steady. I had some beggars keep watch. When the owner's close up, they'll notify us immediately. She hesitated for a moment. But miss, that shop's been open for years. Are you sure it'll shut down? I looked out the window at the falling snow and exhaled slowly, a puff of white mist forming in the air. It will. In the original novel, war breaks out in Baitsong at the end of the year. The conflict spreads far and wide. The pastry shop owner is from Baitsong. His family will be caught in the disaster. In the cha. He'll sell the shop for cheap just to go home and search for his relatives. And in the original plot, it was the heroine who seized the opportunity and bought the place for a steal. But now, I couldn't count on Shin Suing anymore. If I wanted to survive, I had to follow in her footsteps, and make her path mine. Kai Huan looked worried. Miss, this window is drafty. And you're dressed so lightly today, you'll catch a cold for sure. I shook my head slightly and adjusted the hairpin on my head. Pretty, isn't it? Kai Huan nodded. It's beautiful, but it looks a bit chilly. I nodded in satisfaction. She glanced around, then leaned closer. Miss, are we really eating here? I saw the sign downstairs. Just a bowl of noodles costs 10 silver taels. We only have 5. I didn't respond. I gently caressed the teacup and lowered my eyes to watch a carriage pull up below. Only when the carriage stopped did I stand. Let's go. Today is grandmother's birthday, and the longevity silver silk cakes at Heaven and Earth Hall are the best in the capital. I'll bring her one as a gift. That cake costs 30 taels. Where are we going to get that kind of money? The moment the carriage came to a halt outside, I led Kai Huan downstairs. Someone else will pay. Just as we reached the foot of the stairs, A noisy group entered Heaven and Earth Hall. The man leading them wore a splendid robe and had a strong, noble appearance, except for his limp. He held a woman's hand intimately. There was no mistaking it. This was Chu Shanting, the crown prince from the story. The two of them were practically glued together, acting inappropriately affectionate in broad daylight. Kai Huan glanced at the woman beside him and gasped in a whisper. The legitimate young lady. I sneered inwardly. In some other novel, this limping crown prince would be the hidden, misunderstood male lead. Unfortunately, this one was just a crippled, lecherous fool. He had some brains, sure be. Not enough. If he had, he wouldn't have been played to death by Yongchen later on. I ignored them completely and made my way to the counter. 1 longevity silver silk cake, I said. Pack it for takeaway. The shop assistant replied. 30 taels for the cake, 1 more for the box. Kai Huan gasped. What is this robbery? I reached into my sleeve pretending to take out money, when a shrill voice called out nearby. Xin Longshuang, what are you doing here? Since when did the likes of you have the right to step foot in Heaven and Earth Hall? I pulled my hand back and smiled sweetly, giving Shen Suing a polite bow. Elder sister, what a strange thing to say. It's a business, not a private home. Why wouldn't they accept guests? The crown prince's eyes landed on me. His gaze lingered. In the middle of a snowy winter, I stood out in a light golden gauze dress, graceful and elegant. Compared to the other women bundled up in thick robes, I was like a crane among chickens. Shen Suing clearly noticed too. Seeing that the crown prince was clearly drawn to me, she narrowed her eyes and sneered. Don't take offense, young Master Chu. This is my second sister, born of a concubine. She rarely leaves the manor. Perhaps because I mentioned your highness might be visiting today, she dressed up and came here to wait. Though second sister, aren't you cold in that outfit? The crown prince wasn't smart, but he wasn't stupid either. His gaze sharpened, eyes filled with suspicion. I quickly lowered my head, face flushed, and whispered softly. Elder sister misunderstood. My cloak got wet from the snow, so it's drying in the carriage. I just stopped by to buy something and head back right away. I kept my tone aggrieved. Sure enough, the crown prince looked me up and down, his eyes teasing. It's freezing outside. Since we're family, why don't you come upstairs and enjoy the music with us? I immediately bowed. Thank you, young master, but today is my grandmother's birthday. I'm only here to buy her a longevity cake. The crown prince suddenly turned serious. Wait, it's old Madame Shen's birthday? Suing, why didn't you tell me? I haven't even prepared a gift. Shen Suing frowned. It's nothing important. Nothing important, he cut in. Then, turning to his attendant. Li Rong, go with second Mississippi, get her a thick cloak. It's too cold for her to be out like this. And whatever she needs before returning. Ing home, put it all on my tab. I glanced up at him, hesitated and murmured. Is that really okay? The original Shen Longshuang was born frail, pitiful by nature. Even without acting, she could tug on anyone's heartstrings. The crown prince's eyes lit up with excitement. He stepped forward, wanting to take my hand. I immediately took a step back, hiding behind Shen Suing. He paused awkwardly and instead grabbed Shen Suing's hand, patting it lightly. Your father and I were close during his post in the south. Since it's the old madam's birthday today, I'll send over a proper gift to Bamboo Pavilion later. Shen Suing blinked, caught off guard, then smiled. Young Master Chu, your kindness is a blessing for the Shen family. Then she turned to me. Second sister, since young Master Chu has made the offer, don't be shy. Go get yourself a nice cloak and return home quickly. I bowed. Yes, elder sister. As the two of them headed upstairs, Li Rong came over and bowed. Second miss, allow me to cover the cost of the longevity cake. I looked at the two figures ascending the stairs, then turned and smiled faintly at Li Rong. Then I'll leave it to you. After buying the cake, I went to a nearby clothing store and picked out a snow-white cloak, simple, elegant and warm. It cost 80 taels. Li Rong paid without complaint. Now that I had something warm to wear, I stepped straight into Golden Phoenix Hall, the most prestigious jewelry store in the entire capital. Kai Huan tugged on my sleeve, whispering, Miss, this place, Even a pair of basic gold earrings here costs over 100 taels. Of course I knew. I looked around the store, then called to the shopkeeper. My grandmother's birthday is today. Bring out a few sets of jewelry that are suitable for the occasion. Hearing this, the shopkeeper immediately smiled and pulled out several gleaming sets of gold accessories. I glanced across the exquisite displays and pointed to the heaviest one. How much for this set? The shopkeeper beamed. Miss has fine taste. That's our newest design. 800 taels for the full set. Kai Huan's jaw dropped. I nodded. Wrap it up. Then I picked out 5 more bangles, 3 golden hairpins, and 2 more sets of earrings. The shopkeeper busied himself like he was serving royalty. Kai Huan stared with wide eyes and an open mouth. In the end, the total came to 1,930 taels.
Kai Huan chô két.
How will we pay for this? I smiled calmly. Li Rong, please settle the bill. Kai Huan blinked, pretending to dig through her empty purse. Behind us, Li Rong calmly pulled out a thick stack of banknotes, 1,600 taels in total. I gasped. That's far too much. Young Master Chu has already been so generous. But Li Rong only smiled. Second miss is too polite. This little sum is nothing to the crown prince. If he knew we were being stingy here, we'd be the ones getting scolded. He added casually, I also noticed the jade jewelry across the street at Dian Chui Pavilion looked lovely. You might want to take a look, Mississippi. Kai Huan's eyes widened again in disbelief. I covered my mouth, chuckling. In that case, let's go see. And so we walked into Dian Chui Pavilion, where I picked out a few emerald bangles worth several hundred taels. Then we headed to Feihua Pavilion to buy 5 rolls of the latest fabrics and swung by Apricot Blossom Hall for a new makeup set and brow pencil. Finally, as we passed by Jade Crane Hall, Kai Huan tugged on my sleeve and shook her head frantically. Miss, isn't this getting a bit much? I laughed. The Crown Prince is known for extravagance. Even his fan is worth a fortune. What's a little spending? Just as I was picking out fine paper and a few high-quality ink sticks at Zhongxin Stationery, the store manager came down from the second floor with a well-dressed man beside him. I caught a glimpse of the man's face and broke into a cold sweat. Yang Chun. Panicking, I quickly turned my back and gestured for Li Rong to shield me. Mistaking my panic for hesitation, Li Rong said enthusiastically, Second miss, have we bought enough? Or shall I find a few more items? I saw a top-grade inkstone upstairs. Should I ask them to bring it down? I quickly ducked further into my cloak and coughed. No, that's enough. Really?
Li Rong smilat.
Don't worry about the cost. The Crown Prince. Before he could finish, a cold, familiar voice cut in from behind. Second sister. Li Rong turned around, stunned. With no one left to shield me, I had no choice but to slowly lift my head. Yang Chen's expression was calm, but his eyes were dark as storm clouds. I forced a weak smile and bowed. Cousin, what a coincidence. Yang Chen narrowed his eyes at Li Rong, then glanced at the mountain of purchases beside me. It's only been a few days. How did you go through your brush and ink supply so quickly? He rarely appeared in public. Even the Crown Prince's attendants didn't recognize him.
Li Rong blinked in confusion.
I jumped in. This is young Master Tan from the Tan family, an old friend of my father's from court. He came to help me shop for grandmother's birthday. Li Rong, hearing he was a relative, quickly bowed and went off to settle the bill. The shopkeeper, seeing the situation and recognizing Kai Huan, glanced nervously at Yang Chen's face. Without hesitation, he rushed after Li Rong, shouting, It's free! All of it is free. Yang Chen's eyes narrowed. Free again, Manager, are you planning to shut down Jade Crane Hall permanently? The manager froze. Li Rong, still oblivious, nodded. Please just tally the total normally. He then pulled out another handful of banknotes. Yang Chen glanced at him, then turned back to me with a gentle smile. So second sister has learned how to cling to the powerful now? I quickly shook my head. You must be joking, cousin. That man is just a servant of one of father's old court friends. He only came to help shop for grandmother's birthday. Yang Chen's eyes narrowed. Oh? And what's with the ink and brushes then? I gritted my teeth. I wanted to paint a longevity scroll for grandmother. He smiled. I see. Well, it's getting late. Let me take you back to the manor. I was about to decline when I saw his expression darken again. His fingers once more stroking the hilt at his waist. A chill ran down my spine. I quickly nodded. Many thanks, cousin. Heroine helped load the gifts into the carriage and handed me a jade token. Second, miss, you can use this token to visit the Crown Prince's residence whenever you wish. I accepted it with a forced smile, wiping cold sweat from my brow under Yang Chen's frosty gaze. The moment I bid farewell to Heroine, Yang Chen pulled me straight into his own carriage. He glanced at the mountain of treasures inside, then casually opened a box of gold jewelry and jade bangles. Second sister, are you really this short on money? I quickly pulled out the jade token Heroine had just given me and respectfully handed it over. Yang Chen took one look and his eyes narrowed. What's the meaning of this? I thought. Perhaps you might find it useful. He stared at me for a long while, then finally reached out and tucked the jade token into his sleeve. Who would have thought second sister could go so far just for this? You praise me too highly, cousin. I lowered my head, waiting for his judgment. He was silent for a while. Then a soft chuckle drifted from above. The cold wind blew into the carriage. I looked up. Yang Chen had lifted the curtain and stepped out. It was hard enough to come out today. Why not take a few more strolls before heading home? I stood there in a daze. Across the street, he climbed into a far grander carriage. Kai Huan rushed over. Miss, is the young master jealous of the crown prince? I shook my head. He's giving me a chance to live. Come on, let's go back. Back? Why? I let out a long breath and smiled faintly. To return everything, of course. Turn it all into money. Later that evening, Shen Manor. At the birthday banquet, the crown prince really did send over an exquisite white jade statue of the Bodhisattva, crafted with breathtaking detail. Plenty of nobles and officials attended the feast. When they saw the gift, they exchanged glances and whispered to each other. Looks like the Shen family is about to rise. No doubt. That old official from the Shen family used to be a mere fifth-rank magistrate. If he hadn't chosen the right side, they wouldn't be enjoying this glory today. Too bad the Shen family has no sons, only 3 daughters. Such murmurs never reached the main hall. Right now, old Madame Shen was beaming from ear to ear as she admired the glowing jade statue. Shortly after, Heroine delivered an invitation. At month's end, His Highness the Crown Prince Chu Shanting would host a red plum banquet at his residence, specially inviting young masters and ladies of noble families across the capital to enjoy plum and blossoms and compose poetry. These invitations weren't even supposed to be sent out until the next day. He simply had them brought early because it happened to be the old madam's birthday. Shen Suiying had been going out every day lately, and everyone in the household knew. Now that someone had come specifically to deliver an invitation, she was positively glowing with pride, holding her head high. When Heroine finished speaking, old Madame Shen's smile paused ever so slightly. She instinctively glanced at the young lady seated below the main table, though her face remained gracious as she nodded. We're honored His Highness thought of us. Shen Tuqian, the head of the family, glanced at Yang Chen, whose head was lowered as he slowly sipped his wine, his thoughts unreadable. I had no interest in the tangled web of schemes around that table. Each person harbored their own agenda. I kept my head down, busy stuffing my mouth with braised pork belly and pig's trotters, the kind of delicacies we rarely got to eat. All the while, I was silently cursing. A red plum banquet? Call it what it is, a glorified concubine selection party. Who in their right mind would want to go? As the banquet ended, Yang Chen was unsurprisingly summoned by Shen Tuqian for a private meeting in the study. Shen Suiying, utterly obsessed with the crown prince's banquet, didn't even glance at her father. Chin held high, she turned and strutted straight back to her courtyard. Only Shen Mingni, the youngest, hesitated before gently tugging on my sleeve. Second sister, if His Highness invited both of us, does that mean? I looked at her big, hopeful eyes and sighed inwardly. She was only 12. Wasn't it a bit too soon to be thinking about marriage? I smiled. You haven't even come of age yet, little sister. There's no need to worry about such things now. After saying our goodbyes, Kai Huan and I hurried back to my room, shut the door tight, and set down the food box we had prepared under the table. She took out the stash of money. While Kai Huan squatted down, gnawing on the pork and pig's trotters, I sat across from her rubbing my hands together, ready to count silver. Everything I had harvested today from the Crown Prince, aside from the stationery we couldn't return, had already been exchanged for cold, hard cash. Most of the shopkeepers had been reluctant to take the items back, but when they saw we'd come from the Crown Prince's party, they didn't dare say a word and refunded everything happily. Now, both of us stared at the pile of banknotes in front of us, our eyes gleaming. Kai Huan, her cheeks greasy and mouth full, muttered, "Miss, wasn't today just you fleecing the Crown Prince?" I clicked my tongue and kept counting. Of course. There's not even a drop of oil to squeeze out of those inner courtyards in the Shen household. If you want to pluck wool, go for the fattest sheep. Kai Huan glanced at me, then whispered, "But miss, the Crown Prince and the eldest miss seem to be getting along so well. What if we get found out?" "If they're really that good together," I said, not even pausing, "then let her make him request an imperial marriage decree. If she has the skill to become Crown Princess, what's a bit of pocket moan? Why to us?" Kai Huan fell silent. "But I'm just afraid. The Crown Prince doesn't have good intentions. Miss, you wore such a thin dress today. What if he—" I waved her off. "Don't worry. If the sky falls, eldest sister will be the one to hold it up. And if she can't, then Yangchun will." Kai Huan nearly choked on her pork, patting her chest as she looked at me in horror. "Miss, I knew something was off today. The young master. He really seems to care about you. Don't be ridiculous. But really, miss, the young master treats you differently. If you're going to fleece anyone, why not fleece him?" I twitched at the corners of my mouth. "You want me to fleece Yangchun? Are you insane? The Crown Prince might be dumb, but he's easy. Yangchun? That one's dangerous. You try pulling wool off him and you'll lose your fingers. Even a clever rabbit doesn't eat grass near its burrow," I added. "One wrong move and there's no explaining it away. The Crown Prince won't live much longer. Might as well milk him while he's still breathing. As for Yangchun," I lowered my voice, "whatever benefits he offers I don't dare take. I'm just a side character. If I want to survive, I can't get entangled with the main cast. In stories like this, once you meddle with the plot, there are consequences. And once there are consequences, you get dragged into the main storyline. Tell me, when have supporting characters in a song one ever had a happy ending?" Kai Huan seemed to understand and not understand at the same time. In the end, she packed up the empty dishes, wiped her hands, and sat back down to help me count the silver. When we finished, we had 2 hefty stacks. Kai Huan sighed and tucked them into our money box. "Miss, with the sum we deposited earlier, we now have a total of 4,500 taels of silver. Are you really planning to start a new life on your own? There's no precedent for something like this. It won't be easy. In the original story, Shun Longshuang was a villain, and Kai Huan, kind and loyal, had taken a fatal arrow to protect her mistress on the day she married, dying in the street amid snow and chaos." I reached over and held her hand. "No path is easy. What matters is the one you choose for yourself. Kai Huan, remember this. If you want to live well, money is your best armor. I won't promise to make you rich and famous, but I will give you a shop of your own. A life where, if you want meat, you'll have meat. A life where no one dares scold or order you around. That much I can do." Kai Huan was stunned. "I can really have my own shop? Eat meat every day?" I nodded solemnly. "As much as you want. Not just the finest pastries in the capital, until your belly's full, but no one will ever hit you again, or boss you around." Tears welled up in Kai Huan's eyes. I took her hand. "So promise me this, stay close and stop worrying about the people in this house, especially eldest sister and Yangchun. If either of them acts strange, pay attention. Got it?" She nodded quickly. "Yes, miss. I'll listen to you." The night before the Red Plum banquet. To skip the Crown Prince's banquet, I sat soaking in a wooden tub that night, shivering as Kai Huan poured buckets of cold water over me. We were halfway through when a knock came at the door. Ling Yu's voice rang out. Second miss? The old madam sent someone to deliver a hair ornament for tomorrow. I was genuinely surprised. Hadn't we already chosen everything during the day? Why deliver something extra in the middle of the night? Kai Huan went out to retrieve the wooden box. We opened it together. Inside there was only a plain wooden hairpin carved with a plum blossom branch, and a pair of exquisitely crafted white jade earrings. Beneath the hairpin was a set of pale white garments, simple yet elegant, and a scarf made from white snow fox fur. That scarf looked awfully familiar. A few days ago, while shopping for cloaks, I'd spotted it in a store window, pure white, without a single flaw. A single piece had been priced at 80 taels of gold. How could the old madam possibly give something like this to me? A sense of unease crept in. Lifting the snow fox scarf, I found a folded slip of paper hidden underneath. Quickly pulled it out. Don't forget to attend the banquet tomorrow on time. Sure enough, it was his handwriting. Kai Huan, unaware of the note, frowned as she examined the outfit and scarf. Why would the old madam dress you like this? In the middle of snowfall, no one will even recognize you. This clearly wasn't from her. It had to be Yang Chen. He must have prepared all this to force me to attend, probably planning to sneak into the Crown Prince's residence using me as cover. If I'd known, why did I even bother freezing myself in that cold bath? I sneezed, grumbling as I told Kai Huan to clean up the tub. Then I stomped off to bed in a foul mood. The next day, Crown Prince's banquet. When we arrived at noon, Shun Suing was dressed in a blinding pink gown, while Shun Mengni wore a sweet pastel yellow dress. The two of them looked radiant standing side by side. As for me, I was practically invisible amidst the snow. Shun Suing glanced at me and sneered. Wearing white like a snowman. Aren't you afraid of hurting His Highness's eyes? I took a sharp breath, cheeks flushing red. About to respond when the two of them climbed into the carriage without waiting. Father must have gone mad. Letting someone this sick tag along. Find your own ride. Don't infect me or Mengni. With that, she gave the order, and the carriage pulled away, leaving me standing alone in the cold. I sighed, turned to find Kai Huan to call a carriage, and just then a luxurious but discreet carriage rolled up and stopped before me. The thick velvet curtain was lifted slightly, and a familiar hand extended outward. It's getting late, second sister. Why don't I take you there? I cursed under my breath. Just my luck. Still, I clenched my teeth and climbed in. The interior of the carriage was lavishly furnished. Yang Chen was holding a hand warmer, smiling gently at me. Why is your face so red? I shot him a glare. It's cold. Without a word, he handed me the warmer. Warm your hands. Don't freeze them. I took the warmer and turned my back to him, too annoyed to speak. Leaning against the window, I closed my eyes to rest. But no sooner had I closed my eyes than I felt a wave of heat rush up my spine. My breathing grew heavy. By the time we arrived at the Crown Prince's residence, I was already lightheaded. Miss, we're here. As the curtain was lifted, a blast of icy wind rushed in. I instinctively hugged the warmer tight and staggered out, but the movement made my vision spin, and I nearly collapsed, until a strong arm caught me around the waist and pulled me back inside. Shaking off the dizziness, I looked up. Cousin, what are you doing? Yang Chen fronet. You're burning up. I'm fine. You worry about your own affairs. I pushed him away and stepped down into the snow. The cold air hit me like a wave of clarity. Kai Huan rushed over, her face full of worry. Miss, are you all right? My tongue felt like it was burning. I took a deep, icy breath and marched toward the Crown Prince's residence. I'm fine. Let's go. Entry was tightly guarded, but with Yang Chen's jade token, the two of us passed through easily. No one dared stop us. Inside, the snow had been fully cleared. Noble sons strutted about in flamboyant robes. I wanted nothing more than to find a quiet corner and rest. So I turned to Yang Chen, bowed slightly. Cousin, please enjoy yourself. Without waiting for a reply, I turned and headed toward the main hall. After a few steps, I looked back. Yang Chen was already gone, disappearing somewhere among the plum blossom gardens. A crowd had gathered nearby, drinking and warming themselves by the fire. I found a stone bench not far from them, sat down and closed my eyes. I had just begun to drift off when the sound of applause snapped me awake. I opened my eyes to find Shen Suing at the center of the crowd, surrounded by flattery and praise. What happened? I asked quietly. Kai Huan whispered back. Miss, the heir of Ningyuan Marquis just gave a poetic line about plum blossoms in snow. Our eldest lady immediately composed a full poem in response. Everyone's praising
Er Talents.
I snorted. Her? Talented? Not likely. I closed my eyes again, not bothering to play along. But just as I was drifting off, I heard someone call my name. I've heard the Shen family is a noble household with generations of talent. We've seen eldest Mrs. Brilliance. Now I wonder what second Miss will show us. I opened my eyes. A girl in a vivid red gown stood beside the crown prince, looking at me with a smirk. Li Qingxuan, the daughter of Marquis Ningyuan. Even before I could respond, Shen Suing frowned deeply. All eyes turned toward me, still seated on the stone bench. I had been planning to refuse politely, but the crown prince suddenly laughed. Li Qingxuan, you may not know, second Miss Shen is a regular at Jade Crane Hall. Even the shop owner there shows her special respect. The moment he said that, dozens of eyes turned cold and sharp, all aimed at me. Even Shen Suing's face darkened. I sighed. Just a few days ago, I accidentally caught the crown prince's eye. Now, how could I escape his attention? I leaned closer to Kai Huan and asked quietly, who gave the opening verse? She answered, the eldest daughter of Marquis Ningyuan, Li Qingxuan. My heart clenched tightly. Wasn't this woman the future crown princess in the original plot? I lifted my gaze to meet hers directly, then turned to glance at Shen Suing. No matter what happened today, the Shen family could not lose face. If they did, Shen Suing would have no chance of marrying into the crown prince's household. And if that failed, whatever tie that remained between me and Yangchen would also shatter. Then how would I survive? I took a deep breath, curved my lips into a serene smile, and stepped forward with a graceful bow. Miss Li, please give your prompt. Shen Suing's smile stiffened instantly. Li Chengxian smiled as well. Just now, your elder sister composed a poem praising plum blossoms in snow. Why don't you? She glanced around, plucked a branch of red plum blossoms, and said sweetly, why don't you continue the poem she just wrote? Build upon her theme? How vicious. Shen Suing had just received praise for her poem. If mine turned out better, I'd be accused of outshining her. But if it was worse, I'd be ridiculed. I could feel dozens of eyes fixated on me waiting. My eyes burned, my head buzzing like a hive. I lifted my hand to cover my face, gently pressing to cool myself down and focus. Plum blossoms in snow? I thought for a long time. Plum competes with snow for spring's first bloom. Yet poets' pens find no clear air. Let plum yield snow 3 parts of white, while snow to plum must cede its flair. Li Chengxian nodded. Indeed, that's your sister's verse. Now second Miss Shen, please continue. So it was that poem. I sighed softly, breath fogging in the winter air. No way out of this now. I opened my mouth. With plum, but no snow, less spirit there be. With snow, yet no verse, too vulgar you see. The crowd instantly lit up. The crown prince clapped first, laughing. Excellent. Li Chengxian raised an eyebrow. And then, I looked up at the falling snow, caught a flake in my palm, and spoke the final couplet. When snow and plum together fall in line, all spring's essence in 10 parts combine. As I finished, Shen Suing stood frozen in place. The room fell utterly silent. A few moments passed before she stepped back half a pace, staring at me in disbelief. How do you know that poem? The crown prince ignored her entirely. Well said. Well said. He clapped loudly 3 times. With his cue, the whole hall followed suit. Bravo! Wonderful! Why wouldn't they praise it? It wasn't even mine. Whispers spread through the crowd. The Shen family truly is noble. Both sisters are so talented. I always thought the legitimate daughter was more refined, but the concubine-born one isn't any less gifted. Shen Suing's gaze turned colder than snow. Li Chengxian, however, stared at me as though deep in thought. I was burning up. I couldn't hold on much longer. I bowed toward the crown prince. Your Highness, I must beg your forgiveness. I fear I caught a chill while out today. My body feels unwell. I'd hate to spoil the mood. He frowned, limped over to me. Seeing me sway unsteadily, his expression darkened. Someone, bring the kitchen girl here. Have them prepare ginger soup immediately. He muttered under his breath. These weak, frail noble ladies. If every guest who steps into my residence ends up ill, what am I supposed to do? The hall laughed softly at his words. Kai Huan was led away toward the kitchen by a servant. I stood there trembling. This was the crown prince's residence. Why had he dismissed everyone? Sure enough, the moment Kai Huan was gone, the crown prince stepped forward and grabbed my hand. How pitiful. Cold like this. How are you even standing? He turned. Someone. Take second Miss Shen to the side hall and warm her up. The side hall. I panicked and clutched Shen Suing's sleeve, hiding behind her. Sister. Shen Suing glanced back and sneered. At least you know your place now. She blocked me from view and bowed. Your Highness, my younger sister has always been delicate. A short time outside has already taken its toll. If she doesn't return home now, she might end up bedridden for the new year. She turned.
Kai Huan.
Hurry and take her home, before she infects His Highness. I peeked out and nodded vigorously. Sister is right. Longshuang's health isn't good. I dare not ruin His Highness's celebration. With the matter already spoken aloud in front of so many people, the crown prince had no choice but to let it go. Though clearly disappointed, he waved us off. Shen Suing glanced at Kai Dai, who quickly stepped forward to support me as we made our exit. As we reached a quieter spot in the garden, my legs gave out. I leaned heavily against a rock and waved my hand. You go. The main gate isn't far. I'll wait for the carriage myself. Tell Kai Huan to meet me there.
Kai Di luoket hesitant.
But miss, this is the crown prince's residence, and the eldest miss has people everywhere. Just now, His Highness dismissed all the servants. What if someone takes advantage? Oh. F that. Her words made my heart skip a beat. Still, I forced a smile. Go. Kai Dai bit her lip, bowed deeply and rushed away. Dizzy, I looked toward the gate. Just as I tried to walk, my knees buckled, and I nearly collapsed. But the impact never came. I opened my eyes to find myself cradled in someone's arms. Yang Jin. Where had he come from? He narrowed his eyes at me, voice calm. Second sister, you've really done me a great favor tonight. I hadn't even started struggling when he hoisted me into his arms. Panicking, I grabbed his sleeve. Not here. There are too many eyes, cousin. Please worry about your own business. He ignored me, carrying me boldly through the gardens. Oh, so second sister knows what I'm here for. My head spun. I don't know. I know nothing. I heard a low chuckle above me before everything went black. When I opened my eyes again, I was lying in a gently swaying carriage. How had he gotten me out? Weren't the palace gates heavily guarded? I tried to sit up, but was pulled back into his embrace. His warmth pressed against my back, arms tight. I stiffened and turned my head slightly. He was reclining, eyes closed. Don't worry, he murmured. I dismissed the guards along the route. No one saw me carry you out. Your maid's already on her way back to the Shen estate. I forced myself to sit up again. He pressed me back down. You ended your poem with, snow and plum together bring forth full spring. But the new year hasn't even arrived. Isn't that a little premature, second sister? My breathing was hot and labored. I barely managed to open my eyes and saw his sharply defined jawline. He looked down. Those pitch-black eyes were bottomless. You're quite loyal. Even burning with fever, you went into the crown prince's estate just to help me sneak in. I almost feel guilty. I shut my eyes. Your Highness, just remember to grant Shen Longshuang her freedom. A deep voice sounded in my ear. Freedom? You want to leave that badly? Yes. What if I say no? I ignored him. In my fevered haze, the searing heat inside me was slowly drowned by a comforting wave of cold. As if I were sinking into a frozen lake, consciousness slipped away again. I had a high fever for 3 days. Even the imperial physicians gave up. Late on the 4th night, I finally awoke. Kai Huan was at my bedside. tears of joy in her eyes. "Miss, you're finally awake." I rubbed my heavy forehead, looked around to confirm it. Yes, this was my room. Only then did I finally exhale. "Miss, do you still feel unwell anywhere? Should I call the doctor?" I shook my head.
I'm fine.
I just had a weird dream. Dreamt some annoying guy carried me off. Kai Huan gave me a meaningful look. Before I could ask what she meant, a low cough came from behind. I looked up and saw Yang Chun already seated at the table, sipping tea like he'd been there the whole time. Startled, I quickly yanked the curtain shut. Why the hell was he here? Kai Huan pressed her lips together. "He's been coming every night for the past 3 days, always at midnight." I didn't dare say anything. As she spoke, Yang Chun set down his teacup. "It's good you're awake, second sister. I'll be leaving in a few days. Take care of your health." He was leaving, but it was almost New Year's. I quickly replied, "Safe travels, cousin." He paused, then looked back at me through the curtain. "Tomorrow, Shin Leoi will speak to you about the wedding. Rest well. Next autumn I'll come back to marry you." With that, he turned and left, leaving me stunned. Wedding. September. ***. I hadn't even caught my breath yet when the next morning, 60 chests of betrothal gifts from the Crown Prince arrived at the Shun residence. There was no imperial edict yet, but this move made his intentions clear. The entire household burst into commotion. Shin Suing was especially smug, but as the gifts from the Crown Prince arrived, I was summoned by Shin Tuqian to his study. He got straight to the point. Shin Suing was about to be snatched by the Crown Prince. Someone needed to take responsibility for the Tan family alliance. Shin Mingni was still too young, so I was the only option left. Besides, that weakling Tan Wanju seemed to fancy me anyway. Shin Tuqian declared he'd have a matchmaker handle the birth charts and seal the engagement. I didn't resist. I just told him I'd never really had the chance to enjoy the capital, and might never again. With a wave of his hand, he gave me a jade travel pass saying I could go anywhere I wanted, so long as I brought a maid. The next day, the engagement between me and the Tan family was officially announced. When I returned from visiting the old madam that morning, the glances from others in the residence were complicated. I didn't care. Let them think what they want. What mattered now was escaping the plot. With the jade pass from Shin Tuqian, I was now free to enter and leave the Shun residence with ease. According to the original story, after the engagement, Yang Chun would plan to marry me next autumn. The Crown Prince's wedding to Shin Suing was also supposed to happen mid-next year, if the timeline held. As for his downfall, that would come after the new year. So, before the end of this year, I had to buy up properties, prepare to disappear, and swap identities when Yang Chun came to claim his bride. Once Shen Longshuang dies, no one would find me again. With money in hand, I took Kai Huan all over the capital searching for the right shops. I targeted properties with low prices and also had a broker search for homes in Ka Prefecture, down south. In the original novel, Ka Prefecture was described as a peaceful paradise. Lush mountains, flowing rivers. Even the main couple later bought a villa there. The heroine had said it was the perfect place to retire. Of course, unlike her, I had no inexplicable good luck or loyal secret bodyguards falling from the sky, so my escape would be harder. Still, homes there weren't too expensive. After poring over maps, I made a deposit with a broker. I'd finalize the purchase once I got there. At the start of the year, with war rumors flaring near the borders, tea houses in the capital were buzzing with speculation. Shin Tuqian and the Crown Prince were suddenly busy day and night. Shin Suing couldn't find any of the prince's people, and Shin Tuqian was out from dawn till dusk. Yang Chun had vanished without a word, likely already back in Zhou Wangfu, plotting away. Their chaos was my golden opportunity. I bought up the shops I'd scouted, keeping their staff and operations intact. Just hired a manager and accountant to oversee things. My first shop quickly started bringing in cash, and soon, more distressed sellers popped up, desperate to offload property. In the novel, the heroine had only 1,000 taels when she started her business. I had 4,500. This was the perfect moment to strike big. I bought 2 more shops. Before the Crown Prince's demise, I would set up everything. The heroine had named her cosmetics brand, Chun, Spring of Jade. She was lucky and well-connected. Her business bloomed. But I was just a supporting character. I had no social ties.
No halo.
So gaining fame would be much harder. Then I thought of Shun Suing. Over the past few months I'd realized her storyline wasn't quite the same as mine. Likely, she came from a different transmigration novel, a palace romance drama, far removed from my business plotline. She wouldn't live long in the crown prince's residence anyway. Why not borrow her name while I still could? I had someone pretend to be a merchant from the Tan family, bringing new skincare products to Shun Manor for the ladies. Shun Suing, of course, snatched them up eagerly. When she saw the modern creams and lotions, she froze. "These are from the Tan family?" she asked. I nodded. "You've always been close with noble ladies. Sister, I'm sure you're familiar with things like this. I Longshuang am a bit ignorant. Could you help me check them over?" She rubbed some cream on her hand and narrowed her eyes. "Drop the act. These things only exist in modern times. That day you finished the Plum Blossom poem? I already suspected. Didn't think you'd hidden it so well. So you're transmigrated too." I smiled. If I dared recite poetry in front of the crown prince, I wasn't afraid of her finding out. "No point wasting words," I said, lowering my gaze. "You're still the heroine. Longshuang just doesn't want to be cannon fodder. Let me help you enter the crown prince's household. In return, you help me make my business thrive. Once Tan family prospers, you'll have an extra ally." She narrowed her eyes. "So this was your plan all along?" I picked up a jar. The Tan family might not be nobility, but they're still imperial suppliers. Everything here is high quality. If you like them, feel free to take some as gifts. I don't know much about the palace, but I know it's dangerous. Having someone in your corner isn't a bad thing. She raised her brow. "You sure know how to talk." She waved me off. "Fine. You know your place and you're helping me with the Tan engagement. I won't make trouble for you." I bowed. "Once you become a noble consort, please let me keep the Tan engagement. I'm deeply grateful." Pleased with the flattery, she waved a hand. "The Tan family may be lowborn, but these items are quite nice. Leave them here. I'm going to a tea party at Princess Hyang's tomorrow. I'll bring them with me." I smiled. "Many thanks, sister." A little sweet talk went a long way. Luckily, Shun Suing never realized her transmigration novel was a knockoff version. A few days later, Shun Suing came looking for me again, saying she wanted to get more skincare products from the Tan family to gift to some noble ladies. Though I inwardly laughed, I still put on a troubled expression and said that production took time. And I wasn't sure if we had any stock left, but I'd try to check. After making her wait a few days, I took the initiative to visit her. I told her that Tan Gongzi was still deeply infatuated with her, and had agreed to open a Chun store in the capital. If she wanted, she could refer people to the shop for purchases. Anyone she referred would get a 20% discount. Of course, that discount was just for show. I'd already marked the prices up by 20%. Still, Shun Suing loved this setup. After all, in her storyline, she was the chosen one, the center of attention, adored by every man she met. From that day on, she continued to use my free skincare products daily, proudly acting as my unofficial brand ambassador at every banquet. She flaunted her exclusive Chun products all around the capital. And though many noble ladies were envious, the publicity she gave me was priceless. The wealthy young mistresses in the capital didn't lack money. When something was rare and desirable, they fought to get it. Just like that, Chun, the one and only high-end cosmetics brand in the capital, became the talk of the town. Even noble women in the imperial palace secretly sent people to inquire about my products. I didn't dare slack off. I hired more staff, expanded services, and started offering exclusive monthly deliveries for aristocratic clients. Besides the usual shop sales, I created a premium subscription model. All luxury goods were delivered directly to the clients' estates. Watching the profit margins grow day by day, I finally felt at ease. With money, anything was possible. As long as I escaped the Shen household before the crown prince's downfall, I'd be safe. My business boomed. I checked the books every night with glee. That day, after inspecting the shop with Kai Huan, I returned to find the Shun residence shrouded in tension. I asked around. Turned out, the imperial edict confirming Shen Suiying's marriage had just arrived. The shock? She was to be a secondary consort, not the crown princess. Shen Suiying was stunned. She reluctantly accepted the edict, but the moment the crown prince's men left, she lost her mind and tried to storm into his residence to demand justice. Shen Tuqian had to slap her across the face to shut her up. "What are you making a scene for?" he shouted. "The crown princess is the legitimate daughter of the Ningyuan marquis household. The crown prince begged the emperor for that marriage himself." Shen Suiying's eyes widened in disbelief. "Father, you knew about this? So what if I did?" Shen Tuqian barked. "I let you run wild these past months just to secure a spot as secondary consort. That's already more than enough. What else do you want? No matter what, you'll still be an official mistress of the harem. If you're clever, you can even aim for the title of noble consort someday. Isn't that enough?" Tears welled in Shen Suiying's eyes. "But I was supposed to be the crown princess. Someday I was to become empress." Shen Tuqian snorted. "The Ningyuan marquis commands 30,000 troops. His daughter's marriage is a political move to control him. Do you think the emperor would make the empress someone from a minor civil official's family like ours? Use your brain." Shen Suiying staggered backward and collapsed to the floor, eyes vacant. She looked at Shen Tuqian, then around the room. Finally, her gaze locked on me. Suddenly, her expression twisted with hatred. "It was you. It's you, isn't it? I knew something was wrong. Why hasn't the story followed the script? You should have been dead already. And who the hell is this Ninga Marquis? In the original plot, the crown prince only loved me. He would have filled in the Shen family pawn just because I fell in. When he knew you pushed me, he would have buried you under it. He was supposed to sing poetry with me at Tian Di Lu before our wedding. Even his limp was fake. It can't be. This isn't how it's supposed to go." Shen Tuqian's brow furrowed. "What nonsense are you rambling about? What does any of this have to do with your second sister?" I smiled inwardly but kept my eyes down. "Sister is just agitated. Father, you should call a physician to check on her." The novel Shen Suiying had been reading was clearly a bootleg version of mine, a shallow palace romance ripoff. In that fake novel, the foolish, sweet crown prince would bury a lake for love. The palace intrigue was almost cartoonish. Minor characters were casually drowned. But this wasn't her script. In the real plot, the crown prince dies within a year. Realizing the story was going off the rails, she must have panicked, and now she wanted my help. Help? From the same girl she wanted to drown? No thanks. Shen Tuqian, fearing she'd cause more trouble, locked her in her room and posted guards outside. She wouldn't be let out until her wedding day. She screamed and pounded on the door. "Shen Longshuang, you wretched bitch. This is all your fault. I'm the heroine, not you. You're just a side character. You'll never beat me. The crown princess has to be me. It's fate." Shen Tuqian sneered. "If not for your second sister stepping in to marry into the Tan family, you wouldn't even have gotten a foot in the crown prince's estate. You threw yourself at him like a dog in heat, and you're lucky to even be his concubine now. What more do you want? Father, this is all a plot. Shen Longshuang set me up. She ruined me." No one understood a word she was saying. Shen Tuqian waved his sleeve. "Guard her well. She doesn't leave that room without my permission." I twirled my finger in my ear and left calmly. Before I even reached my courtyard, I saw Kai Huan rushing in through the back gate. "So fast?" I asked. "Did you find someone?" She nodded. "I kept visiting that lady and bringing her Yuji Chun products. She loved them and helped us out." She pulled a small box from her sleeve. "These are 2 identity tags for missing girls this year. They haven't been reported dead, so their tags still work. But the lady said we should use them soon. Next month the census office will start tracking missing persons, and it'll be harder." I smiled, holding the tags. Perfect timing. Now that Shen Suiying had no choice but to accept her fate as a concubine, I could move. Less than a month later, The crown prince held a grand banquet to welcome Li Changxian, daughter of the Ningyuan Marquis. Though it was technically a forced marriage, her wedding procession was 10 miles long, lavish beyond compare. Compared to Shen Suing's pitiful ceremony, it was like heaven and earth. If I didn't already know the crown prince wouldn't survive the year, I might have mistaken Li Changxian for the true heroine. The gossip about the crown prince was entertaining, but that was all it was. Once Shen Suing left the Shen household, she was no longer a threat. I immediately shifted into high gear, accelerating my business. Thanks to my tight management, Yuji Chun's fame soared even higher. Eventually, it even caught the attention of the Imperial Royal Supplier brand. I never visited the shop and I never showed my face. When they couldn't find me, they simply sent an invitation directly to the storefront. I was calculating the recent profits in the ledger when Kai Huan brought me the invitation. If we partnered with the Royal Trade Guild, we could get a tax break in the future. But now, just as we're preparing to leave, what a pity. After finishing the last line of calculation, I put down the brush and picked up the invitation. Greed is a bottomless pit. If the Royal Trade Guild was showing interest, maybe I could just hand the store over to them. Miss, you're planning to sell the whole store to the Royal Trade Guild? Kai Huan asked, eyes wide. The business is booming. We might get a very good price. Every extra day in the capital brought more risk. Now that we'd caught the Royal Trade Guild's attention, Duanchen would surely notice too. If they truly wanted Yuji Chun, then I'd rather sell it all, including the formula, at a sky-high price. After that, I'd take Kai Huan and head south, buy some small property and live quietly. The next noon, I veiled my face and took the carriage directly to Tiandilu. This inn was run by the court and frequented by the crown prince and noble merchants. But even among merchants, there were ranks. The invitation clearly stated the meeting would be held in the Tian room. That was not a place for a mere trade assistant. I dared not be careless. I had to attend in person. Yet the moment I stepped into the Tian room, I froze. Sitting inside, robed in deep purple embroidered with coiling dragons, hair bound in a golden jade crown, was Duanchen. Why was he here? I stood frozen for too long. He finally raised his eyes and looked at me calmly. It's only been a few months, yet my dear second sister has already earned a different level of respect. I turned and almost bolted but paused. Who else would dare to buy if I didn't sell to the Royal Trade Guild? It was exactly because I needed this deal that I forced myself to stay. Following Duanchen's gesture, the two black-clad guards behind him silently withdrew. He sipped his tea without saying a word. I bowed my head and nervously scraped at the floor with my toe. After a long while, he finally put down his teacup. Seems like I underestimated you, second sister. Startled, I hurriedly stood and dropped to my knees. This commoner begs your highness for mercy. Relax. Seat. I trembled as I inched to the edge of a chair. He twirled the jade ring on his finger, gazing out the window at the distant lake. Just half a year, and you've already turned those strange little bottles into a must-have among the noblewomen of the capital. Who would have guessed a cloistered young lady like you had a head for business? That day, I didn't see it in you. In the original novel, the regent prince investigated the crown prince's treasonous ties to enemy forces. While going through the crown prince's secret businesses, he happened to uncover the female lead's connection. Thus began their dramatic cat-and-mouse power play. But now the script had twisted. Disaster was falling on me instead. I knew the heroine's storyline, but mine, the supporting characters, had never gone this far. If I said something wrong, would he kill me on the spot? Every time I faced Duanchan, I was like a rabbit in front of a snake. After a long silence, I bit my lip, pinched my thigh under the table, and forced a smile. Your Highness overestimates me. He stayed quiet, then finally spoke again. Come closer. Yes. I scooted forward a little. Closer. Trembling, I stood and moved another step, apparently out of patience. He reached out and grabbed me by the collar, yanking me onto his lap. Sit here. I didn't dare resist. I sat, my back pressed to the cold hilt of a hidden blade. If I'm not mistaken, those gifts from the Crown Prince, you already converted them into capital, didn't you? His breath brushed my ear, scented faintly with tea. I stiffened. I was no more than a cornered mouse. Your Highness is wise beyond words. He chuckled. I'm just curious. How much have you turned that money into? I scrambled off his lap and knelt on the floor. Your Highness, this humble girl was only looking for a way to survive. Who knew the shop would become so successful? I fear I'm unworthy of managing such a business. That's why I came today, to discuss selling it to the trade guild. You want to sell it? Yes. He leaned forward and lifted the edge of my face veil. I froze. Eyes red from self-pinching, I spoke carefully. I don't know why Your Highness arranged my marriage with the Tan family. All I know is if I don't get married soon, my father will sell me off again. This is the only way I can create a path for myself. If Your Highness is willing to take over the shop, I'll be forever grateful. How much are you asking? Overjoyed, I lifted my head. Unlike other shops, Yuji-chan doesn't just sell products, it sells exclusives. Our formulas are unique, found nowhere else under the heavens. We profit roughly 1,000 taels of silver per month. If expanded, the revenue could easily double or triple. I'm not greedy. For the entire brand in my other shops, I ask only for 500,000 silver taels. Duan-chan spun his ring again and chuckled. After all that boasting, now you want me to fork over 500,000? Do I look like a fool? I quickly bowed low and knocked my head to the floor. If Yuji-chan wasn't worth it, Your Highness wouldn't have come under the guise of the trade guild. Our products are so sought after that a single bottle is now selling for 3 times the retail price. Forgive my boldness, but with the war in the north, if the Royal Trade Guild distributed our goods abroad, it could help ease the national treasury's burden. The air fell silent. Duan-chan rested his chin on his hand, staring at me so intensely it made my scalp prickle. After a long moment he finally said, "Bring the contract." Soon someone entered with the scroll. Duan-chan signed and stamped it with the trade guild seal. I let out a sigh of relief and quickly took the contract to review. Then my heart froze. 500,000 taels, but only 200,000 paid up front. The remaining 300,000 would be paid in the 9th month. Your Highness, what is the meaning of this? Leaning back lazily, Duan-chan replied. You already know the border situation. The guild is funneling funds to the front lines. We can't pull that much cash right now. But don't worry, come autumn, when you ride the bridal sedan to the Tan family, the rest will be paid in full. My eyes widened. Seeing my displeasure, his tone sharpened. Or does second sister think another trade guild would dare pay that much? For both the shop and the formulas? I gritted my teeth. This humble girl wouldn't dare. He smirked and flicked his sleeve, striding toward the door. Just do your part, and not a single coin will be short. The deposit will arrive shortly. As I watched his silhouette fade away, my heart grew heavy. It was clear now, when the wedding day came in the 9th month, Duan-chan would definitely make a move. In the original plot, it was a mountain bandit ambush. But thinking back now, it likely wasn't that simple. Could he be planning to kill me en route just to avoid paying the remaining 300,000 taels? Not long after, the guild's people delivered the full 200,000 taels in thick silver notes. Kai Huan and I carefully counted them, only to discover beneath the wooden box a deed. When I opened it, I realized it was the house I had placed a deposit on in Kazhou. My heart tightened as I looked toward the door. A month later, I sat in a carriage packed with luggage. Lifting the curtain, I watched a convoy approach slowly in the distance. Chu Shanting, already angry and insecure after hearing rumors that his position as crown prince was wavering, had taken his rage out on all the women in his household. In the original novel, he had a violent temper. No one was spared. Li Shiyuan, backed by her noble lineage, remained untouched. But troublemaker Shen Songning became the perfect target. She was not only placed under house arrest but tied up in the courtyard and flogged. So badly that they said she'd be bedridden for months. Li Shiyuan, under the guise of crown princess, was sent out to pray for the borderlands. Shen Songning wasn't even allowed to accompany her. She had become a target of both the crown princess's resentment and Chu Shanting's hatred, likely to be locked up until death. Only once the convoy passed beyond the city gates did I finally lower the curtain. and told the driver to follow the group west. Once off the main road, I instructed him to head north. Duanzhan knew I planned to buy a house in Kazhou. That deed was his warning, meant to say that no matter where I ran, he could find me. But what if I ran to Baitsong where war had broken out? Even with long arms he couldn't reach there. But the moment we turned off the road, dozens of black-clad men stormed out of the forest, blades drawn. Assassins! Protect the crown princess! Chaos erupted. Just as I lifted the curtain to see what was happening, I saw the driver of the front carriage get his throat slit. While Li Shiyuan's carriage was tightly guarded, the others were quickly subdued. I leapt from my carriage, yanked out my hairpin, and stabbed it into the horse's flank. With a cry, the horse bolted. I gripped the reins and drove the carriage straight through the chaos. A few attackers were knocked down, but others gave chase. Miss, it's dangerous. Arrows rained down from both sides. I couldn't dodge fast enough. Kai Huan suddenly jumped out and took an arrow for me. Kai Huan. I'm fine. Keep going, miss. Just go. Blood seeped through her shoulder. I gritted my teeth and whipped the reins harder. But then she grabbed my wrist, eyes wide and trembling. Don't go back. Don't return to the capital. Why not? You'll die. You'll die on the road to your husband's home. How did she know? I never told her. My head buzzed. Blood soaked my sleeve. Kai Huan was bleeding out from her chest. Miss, remember, don't ever get on that wedding palanquin. When Dan family comes to fetch the bride, there'll be bandits. An arrow pierced the horse's neck. The carriage overturned. I clutched Kai Huan and crawled out of the wreckage. The assassins took aim again. This time I thought we were done for. But then, an arrow shot from the sky, deflecting the incoming bolt. Swordsmen burst from the forest, surrounding the assassins. I looked up and saw a familiar figure in royal purple. Without thinking, I grabbed his sleeve. Save her. Please save her. Duanzhan. Atop his horse, looked down at me. Escort Miss Shen back to the estate. I hadn't expected it. After rescuing us, he immediately summoned the imperial physician. Thanks to him, Kai Huan survived. The arrow had missed her heart by mere inches. I stayed by her side for several days before she finally woke up. I reached to stop her. Don't move. You're still hurt. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Miss, you're such a fool. You could have escaped. I shook my head. If it had been right after I transmigrated, maybe I wouldn't have cared so much. But after 5 years of being together, I couldn't just let her die. I told you. I'd take you to eat and live well. I meant it. Kai Huan bit her lip. I knew it. The moment you said those words, I knew you were no longer the same. She told me she had reincarnated. After dying to protect the original Shen Longshuang, she awoke back in the Shen household. I hadn't transmigrated yet. She realized immediately that I wasn't the same person but didn't dare speak, only hoping she could warn me not to marry into the Dan family. She never expected I had no intention of marrying anyone, and had spent the last 5 years saving up to escape. What shocked her most was that I even wanted to open a store for her. She had seen everything and believed that this time, everything would turn out all right. She didn't bring up the future. But even so, we still ran into disaster. Suddenly, she gripped my hand again. Miss, what about those assassins? Why would they appear at a noble daughter's pilgrimage? And, why did our cousin turn out to be a prince? That day, I still had a bit of awareness. I heard the guards calling him Your Highness. I sighed. Don't ask too much. I only know those assassins were hired by Shen Songning. She colluded with foreign spies. Kai Huan's eyes widened. That. The Xiaojia. No wonder, I said bitterly. In her version of the novel, she had ties to the martial underworld. In mine, I had no idea how she managed it, but even while imprisoned in the crown prince's estate, she'd somehow hired killers. Only after Duanzhan told me did I find out. They weren't assassins, but Baitsong infiltrators disguised as mercenaries. The plan was to attack the crown princess during a pilgrimage to stir unrest in the capital. And with war looming in the north, this was enough to cause widespread panic. But this move gave Duanzhan an opportunity. In the original plot, the crown prince wouldn't fall until year's end. Now Duanzhan took Kai Deep and Shen Songning straight to the emperor. The crown prince had no defense. Even Ningyuan Ho, furious that his daughter was nearly assassinated under the crown prince's watch, boycotted court. With no other option, the emperor threw Chu Shanting into prison. For now the storm had passed. I suddenly remembered something and narrowed my eyes at Kai Huan. In your previous life on the way to your husband's home, do you remember what those mountain bandits looked like?
Kai Huan Frau Wen.
Miss, are you saying the mountain bandits were actually Baitsong barbarians in disguise? I pressed my lips together. It's just a guess. Kai Huan quickly added, Miss, that arrow you still have it, right? Realizing what she meant, I immediately retrieved the broken arrow we had taken back. Kai Huan examined it closely, then covered her mouth. Judging by her expression, I could tell she had figured it out too. So, the mountain bandits from her past life were indeed these Baitsong tribesmen. And this part of the story had been accelerated by Shen Songning. In the previous timeline, they only happened to rob the Duan family's wedding procession. Shen Longshuang got hurt just by coincidence. Their target hadn't been the Duan family at all. But the Duan family was the richest in Tanzhou. Of course those Baitsong men had their eyes on them. That's why Yang Chan planned to use the wedding procession to lure them out. He just hadn't expected Shen Songning to stir up trouble and cause them to reveal themselves early. Kai Huan suddenly looked anxious. Miss, then what should we do? Will the Duan family wedding procession still be attacked? I shook my head. Those Baitsong men have already been thrown in prison. It's unlikely. Besides, that wedding probably won't even happen now. Sure enough, a few days later, the crown prince's residence was confiscated. Unlike the last life, this time the Marquis of Ningyuan had not yet led troops northward, and Li Tuihuin, being the victim, escaped execution and even received a letter of divorce, severing ties with the crown prince. At that point, the emperor owed the Marquis a favor, so he agreed to mobilize troops by the 10th month. As for me, I was never sent back to the Shen family, because they had also been purged. The men were exiled, the women sent to brothels. Looking back, it made sense. Court officials had long gossiped about the crown prince's weak health, fearing it would affect his ability to produce an heir. Though the imperial physicians had never confirmed infertility, the idea of replacing the crown prince had already been planted like a thorn in his heart. The crown prince refused to give up his position. So while pretending to obey and pushing for marriage with the Marquis's daughter, he was secretly scheming with Shen Ziqian and other officials. He even colluded with Baitsong rebels, planning to use war to seize the throne. In the previous life, Yang Chan had presented all the evidence of treason, which led to the crown prince's downfall. This time with my help, gathering proof was even smoother. The Shen family was destroyed. Shen Longshuang would have been forced into prostitution, but according to Yang Chan, she had already died in the assassination in the outskirts. Since my return, I had gone by the name Kui Khan, using the identity of a missing merchant girl on an old household token. This merchant girl had no parents or relatives. No one could verify her background. Yang Chun had fulfilled his promise to me before the scheduled wedding in the golden autumn month of September. I should have been on my way to get married, but instead Kai Huan and I were leading a horse cart out of the city. Just as we reached the city gate early in the morning, Yang Chen's carriage blocked our path. I was invited inside. He was sipping tea. Been busy these past few days. Almost forgot about your matter. Now that you're free, you can go wherever you please. So, where are you going? I lowered my head. Your Highness has granted me freedom. Of course I will go wherever I want. Silence filled the carriage. After a long while, Yang Chun sighed. Kazhou is not a bad place. I've already given you the deed. Go there then. I didn't reply. A moment later, a jade pendant fell into my lap. Engraved on it was the word Jiao. Keep it well. If anything happens, just wear this pendant. No one will dare stop you. I picked it up and bowed. Many thanks, Your Highness. As I stepped out of the carriage, he suddenly called after me again. Lifting the curtain, he looked at me with complex eyes. Miss, the world outside is so treacherous. Do you really have to go? I smiled. Your Highness must be joking. Isn't the world treacherous no matter where we go? Yang Chan said. My residence is the most peaceful place in the realm. I smiled again. Your Highness knows well, my aspirations aren't here. He stared at me for a long time, then let the curtain fall. When his carriage vanished into the distance, I finally exhaled and returned to my own cart. Let's go. Got it. With Yang Chen's permission, Kai Huan and I headed south to Kazhou. We didn't stay long. After a few days of scouting, we sold the deed and moved closer to Shiguan, where we opened a provisions shop for travelers. It was just like the female lead in the original novel had done later. Outside Shiguan there were countless merchants, escorts, and border patrols. Their dry rations were usually just hard biscuits or plain buns. So when I introduced portable snacks like compressed cookies, spicy chili paste, beef jerky, instant noodles, and pickled vegetables, they were instantly popular. Within a year, you could see people boiling noodles in mini pots with chili oil on every travel road. Children sucked on jam biscuits. Since the Marquis of Ningyun stationed troops in Baitsong, things there had calmed a bit. But who would have thought that 3 years later, tensions flared again? Just then, the emperor suddenly passed away, throwing the court into chaos. Half a month later, the courier station relayed the news. The young fifth prince had been put on the throne by Yang Chan. From that moment on, Yang Chan became the regent, ruling the nation on behalf of the child emperor. At the time, I was in the outer regions of Shiguan, signing export contracts with merchants from Chu. My business had grown from Shiguan into Chu, and then expanded inland. The Gue brand I founded had over 100 joint storefronts and more than 1,000 employees, selling not just food, but also medicine, fabric, even taverns. Kai Huan managed one of the largest chains in Shiguan. Business was booming. That August, she chose a husband to marry into the family. On the day lanterns lit up the streets, I helped her comb her hair while she wore a red bridal robe. She looked at me through the mirror. "Miss, do you really have to go? Can't you just send a trusted manager instead?" I sighed. This time I have to pass through 64 cities. If I don't go in person, those managers might obey on the surface and betray me behind my back. Kai Huan stood up and hugged me. "Miss, then I won't marry. I'll go with you." I laughed and patted her shoulder. "How could you say that? I can only rest easy if you stay in Shiguan to guard the headquarters."
Kai Huan.
"You're the only one I trust in this life." In the original novel, Baitsong had already reached the brink of food and weapon shortages. If I didn't act, the enemy would overrun the south. The nation would fall, and all the fortune I'd built would vanish. So the most urgent task was to re-enter the main storyline, travel to 64 cities, gather grain and money from everywhere, and send it north. After parting with Kai Huan, I joined my group of merchants. We traveled non-stop and managed to pass through most major cities within 3 months, collecting over 8 million bundles of grain, which I personally escorted north. The road was grueling. Near Huzhou, we were stopped by local soldiers. Their reason? I couldn't provide an official document from the court, and they were preparing to confiscate all our provisions. I had sent the paperwork long ago. It should have reached Yangchen by now. All the prefectures along the way had let us through, knowing we were delivering supplies to Baitsong. But here, things had taken an unexpected turn. "Your Excellency, the front line is in desperate need of grain. If Baiguan falls, do you realize that your own Huzhou will be overrun and slaughtered by the barbarian forces?" The middle-aged man in front of me narrowed his eyes. "What nonsense! Baitsong has the Marquis of Ningyun guarding it. How could the barbarians possibly break through the border? Besides, the origin of your provisions is unclear. If I let you through and my superiors find out, I could lose my official post." This man, named Zhao Ling, had previously been demoted and exiled to Huzhou due to his involvement in the crown prince's affairs. Though Huzhou was a desolate outpost, judging by his round figure and well-fed look, he had likely extorted plenty from the locals. Feeling helpless, I ordered someone to offer him 50 taels of gold. "The travel permit is on its way. Please, Your Excellency, grant us leniency. If you remain concerned, we're willing to stay within the city until the documents arrive." Zhao Ling's eyes lit up when he saw the gold. After a while, he stroked his beard and smiled. "Well, I suppose it's not impossible. Guards, arrest these people and lock them up. They'll be released once the documents arrive." I frowned and immediately produced the jade token given to me by Yang Chan. Your Excellency, please reconsider. The moment the jade token was revealed, the surroundings fell silent. Zhao Ling narrowed his eyes, snatched the token, and sneered. With a flick of his hand, he smashed it to the ground. How dare you bring a fake jade token into Huzhou? Guards, arrest them all. Confiscate all provisions and silver. Turn everything over to the state. The token shattered into pieces. I couldn't believe my eyes as I stared at Zhao Ling. You're courting death, Zhao Ling. That token was bestowed upon me by the regent himself. If anything happens to us, how many heads do you think you have to pay for it? Zhao Ling snorted. You're nothing but a bunch of ignorant commoners. This godforsaken corner of Huzhou? The regent's hand won't reach here. If anyone could fool me with a jade token, I might as well throw my post away. Guards, take them all. The soldiers charged forward. Everyone was tied up, including me, who was dragged roughly down from the carriage. Amidst the chaos, a piercing arrow whooshed past my ear and embedded itself straight into Zhao Ling's official hat. Startled, I turned around to see dust billowing in the distance. An entire army was approaching. The man at the front, clad in shining silver armor, was galloping toward us. The next arrow flew, pinning Zhao Ling's hair knot. The regent is here. Who dares act recklessly? Zhao Ling, clearly never having seen such a grand spectacle, was so terrified he wet himself on the spot. Ari Regent, why are you here? Yang Chun, with a cold face and murderous aura, rode forward and fixed Zhao Ling with a sharp gaze. The Marquis of Ningyuan is gravely injured. I've come to personally lead the army. Do you have a problem with that? Standing on the carriage, I looked at the imposing army behind him. Tears welled up in my eyes. No wonder he never replied. He was on a military campaign and never received my letter. Yang Chun turned to look at me, then at the wagons of grain behind. These provisions, did you bring them? I nodded, signaling the servant to present the ledger. 8 million dan of grain, gathered from 64 cities. I ask your highness to review it. Inside the carriage, I nervously wrung my hands and kept silent. Yang Chun removed his heavy helmet, sat down beside me, raised an eyebrow. Didn't you once say you valued money above your life? What's this then? I haven't even given you the remaining 300,000 taels, and you've already rushed all the way here. Startled, I looked up. 300,000 taels? He pulled me toward him, his tone tinged with frustration. Yes. I sent people to Kazhou to find you and deliver the silver. Who knew you'd already sold your house and vanished for 3 years? Now you return hauling 8 million dan of grain. So, he actually remembered the debt? Looking at Yang Chun, 1,000 thoughts surged through me. In the end, only by staying away from the main characters could I keep my life intact. All I wanted was to live as a wealthy commoner in peace. I forced a smile, lowered my head, and whispered, then about that 300,000 taels. Will your highness still pay? Yang Chun narrowed his eyes as if trying to see through me. I truly don't understand you, Miss Shen. You claim to love money, yet this grain must have cost you all your savings from the past 3 years. I waved my hands quickly. Your highness doesn't need to understand. I, Longshuang, am merely the daughter of a criminal. I should have no ties to your highness. This grain is merely a humble offering. Yang Chun released me and sighed. If even half the people at court had your heart, Baitsong wouldn't be in this state. I lowered my head in silence. After a long while I spoke quietly. Actually, I do have a small favor to ask. Yang Chun raised a brow and leaned in close. Oh? Then say it. Besides the 300,000 taels, anything you want, I'll grant it. His breath tickled my ear. My heart skipped a beat. I licked my lips, looked up at him, now only inches away. Please don't think I'm too greedy, but I have a small trade guild. I want it to be like the damn families, to receive state benefits. He froze. After a while, Yang Chun gritted his teeth. That's all. I beamed. Yes, that's all. Suddenly he grabbed my collar. I choked, my eyes wide in shock. His breath was heavy. After what felt like forever, his lips brushed against my ear. Do you know, I once truly wanted to marry you? You were too clever. Too composed. You deliberately showed weakness, let your guard down, and slipped away. On the day the crown princess was attacked, I saw your carriage packed and ready. I knew then you'd planned your escape long ago. I thought you'd stay after everything, but you still ran. To a place even I couldn't reach. His breath was overwhelming. I quickly pushed him away and looked straight at him, my expression cold. Your Highness, you're just unwilling to admit it. I'm just a criminal's daughter, not worth your concern. It's simply because I'm the first who didn't fall for your wealth, status, or hints about the back courtyard. I've made my intentions clear from the beginning. I never wanted to cozy up, only to be cast aside.
Yang Chen grabbed my chin.
Yes, you said you wanted freedom. But how do you know I can't give it to you? I sneered. Let's drop it. Today I overstepped with my trade guild request. Please pretend it never happened. The grain has arrived. Your army is here to escort it. I've completed my task. I'll take my leave. As I stood to go, Yang Chen yanked me back into his arms. I gasped in shock. Yang Chen, what are you doing? He looked at me, a smile curling at his lips. I knew it. That docile act was all pretend. You dare say my name directly? You've got guts, Miss Shen. I inhaled sharply and quickly bowed my head. I wouldn't dare. Seeing my fear, Yang Chen said, What are you so afraid of? Didn't you say you wanted imperial favor? Wait until I win this war. Then I'll give you exactly what you asked for. My eyes lit up. Really? Seeing my joy,
Yang Chen sighed helplessly.
He picked up his helmet and stood, walking toward the door. What I promise I will do. But the army is heading straight for the border. These provisions still need to be delivered to the garrison at Inhung City. I'll assign 500 cavalrymen to escort you personally. You may leave whenever you're ready. I let out a breath of relief. Thank you, Your Highness. The battle in Baitsong was grueling, but thanks to ample supplies we held our ground. The barbarian tribes, already weakened by the Marquis of Ningyuan, were besieged outside the pass. Within 3 months they ran out of food and were utterly defeated by Yang Chen. The great victory in Baitsong brought celebration throughout the nation. Yang Chen himself escorted me back to the capital. When it came time for rewards, the Gue Trade Guild, credited with aiding the war, was officially granted imperial privileges. With this connection, within 6 months, our stores across the nation, emptied during the donation campaign, were fully restocked. The 300,000 taels Yang Chen owed me were officially cleared. He returned the rights to Yuji Chen to me, allowing me to resume business, and even opened an exclusive flagship store at Shi Pass, making it a national brand for foreign trade, generating enormous profit. In exchange, the headquarters of the Gue Trade Guild had to be relocated to the capital. Kai Huan's family was brought over as well. As the young emperor grew more capable, Yang Chen gradually delegated state affairs to him. Whenever he had free time, he would visit my shop. While I worked through ledgers in the study, he sat across from me reviewing memorials. I couldn't shoo him away, and I didn't want to make a scene either. Whenever I grew irritated, he would just say, I'm here to see how you enjoy imperial favor. He wouldn't budge from his seat. When I fell ill and had to work from home for a month, he brazenly came over daily, bringing boxes of tonics and herbal soup, reviewing memorials as he watched me take my medicine. I eventually couldn't take it anymore and fled to the trade guild's offices. As soon as I finished one set of ledgers, he'd show up asking to inspect storefronts with the excuse of market investigation. Truly, he was a clingy tail I couldn't shake off. But to his credit, aside from sticking around, he never overstepped. In fact, thanks to his involvement, I could settle trade disputes directly with him and save a great deal of time. 1 year later, when the trade guild had stabilized, I passed full control to Kai Huan. The once scrawny girl was now a plump, graceful woman. Her soft, fair hands now wore the jade bracelet she never dared touch before. When she smiled, her dimples made her look so gentle and kind. Still, in public or private, she never stopped calling me Miss, a habit she couldn't seem to break. As the 9th month approached, she caught me one night packing my carriage and asked in surprise, Miss, where are you going again? I waved a hand. I heard there's a hot spring in Tan Back. I want to see if it can be developed, maybe build a villa. She glanced around cautiously and lowered her voice, Does His Highness know about this? I blinked. Why would I need to tell him? She hesitated but said nothing more, and I didn't press it. At dawn the next day, I left the city with a few guards. I was so sleepy on the road that I dozed off. When the sun was already high, I stirred and felt a hand next to me. Startled, I woke completely. Opening my eyes, I found that someone else had entered the carriage. A man in white robes with black hair tied neatly sat calmly by the window, gazing at the scenery. Elegant. Serene. I was dumbfounded. Young Jin? Why are you here? Don't you have memorials to review? He turned his head only after seeing I'd woken. The emperor needs to learn how to handle matters himself. If I keep holding the reins, what will become of the dynasty? Were those really words a regent with absolute power should be saying? I rubbed my nose. You spent all that effort toppling the crown prince. I thought you were obsessed with power. Young Jin Chuklet. If you had seen the suffering of the common people, you would know why I wanted him gone. The emperor now is kind and upright. Unlike the cruel Chu Thin. If the empire had fallen into Chu Thin's hands, we'd be facing ruin. I swallowed nervously and shifted away. Then why are you here? Don't you have more important things to do? He looked at me, his eyes full of amusement. Oh, I've had something I wanted to do for years now. I glared. Then go do it. Why are you following me? Seeing me shrink into the corner, he didn't pull me close this time, but instead moved toward me himself. Years ago, I wanted to know, what exactly is the freedom that Miss Longshuang has always longed for? After everything you've done, what kind of place are you running toward to live the life you truly desire? He gently took my hand. So I've decided I'm coming with you. I want to see where you'll run this time. I stared at him, stunned. You're joking, right? I'm just going sightseeing. You're coming too. He looked at me, and in his deep eyes I saw only myself. So what if I am? Do I look like I'm joking? The September wind blew into the carriage, rustling a few loose strands of his hair. I stared at him, then turned to watch the golden autumn leaves fluttering along the roadside. It was September again. But this time, I was no longer in Tan family's bridal carriage.